bit later.
And with the way that Faker is continually shoving Febiven back into the turret right there, it is going to run his mana down to half before this potentially apocalyptic fight here at Dragon.
Apocalyptic, wow.
I was trying to think of a big word. I think I reached a little too far.
Ragnarok-esque fight. That's right. Oh, Wolf might be the end times for him if he's not careful here. Pulverize gets stunned by Yellowstar. He's going to just kind of guard in that very disturbing skin that he's using. Cowboy Alistar, I don't know. That thing still gives me the creeps. It's weird.
So pink ward control. Went over a little bit to SKT right now. Still Yellowstar gets in, eliminates one of his own. Febiven going to go back 2 seconds before Dragon spawn.
Yeah, that might be a little bit rough. We'll see if SK Telecom reacts. There's Bang trying to push Steel back out of lane. He does a decent amount of damage with the culling, with just auto attacks after that dash. Oh, Steel back pushed way out. Bang taking a little bit of chunkle damage, but not as much of a worry with that Alistar as your lane partner. Meanwhile, Bengi starting to zone a bit. SK Telecom, we'll see if they can get a hold of this Dragon.
All the setup in the world, if your AD carry gets chunked out like that before a Dragon fight, you're not thinking of contesting. So now SKT might be trying to do a bait and switch up here and maybe just catch him out, because they know that since the Sivir is so low that even if they commit a Lulu to the top lane, it's a free roam right there. Missed opportunity because Huni obviously went back.
Right. Huni also in that Mega Gnar, not the best time to gank a top lane Gnar. Oh, rain over. Chasing Bengi didn't quite get the little knockup. And Bengi will just hide out on his opponent's ward. Not the best place to hide.
Yeah, so a little bit of a delay here.
Yeah.
As Fnatic buys themselves enough time just to hold on to some level of river control for a little bit. Steelback slowly healing back up, and here we go, Bengi with the snowball.
Yep, coming in, trying to protect that ward that they know is seen by that pink ward. Rain over. Orthwall trying to get away. Here comes Bang. Steelback advancing as well, still a bit lower on the health. Here comes a teleport coming in. Bangy getting very low, uses that ult. Absolute zero goes off. Yellowstar gets the kill anyway. Wolf in a little bit of trouble, but here comes Faker. Here comes Mara. Rain over coming in, getting taken down. Meanwhile, another kill though comes in. Marin zoning pretty well, and Yellowstar back out for the moment. Marin getting really low, and Huni's about to go Mega Gnar. I think SKT has been pushed away from this Dragon. Oh. This one might go to Fnatic. Marin might go down. Huni grabs the kill. What a play! And Bang and Faker have to retreat under the turret. Fnatic winning that team fight.
And that was a great teleport from Huni right into that one. We saw the teleport from Marin as well, but it was a little bit off to the side. And even though we got that equalizer down in the choke point, it was a little too late. So I'll take a look at that one again.
We talked about monsters in the mid lane before this tournament, but it's really been the top laners and their impact with teleport right here, because the fight when it starts is initiated by Fnatic, but it's the teleport early from Huni right there to have the bigger impact. When Marin came in with the Rumble, the equalizer is actually not that effective because the rest of Fnatic is able to move through it right there. It didn't block their pathway pretty much at all. And then the rest of this fight was just Huni hanging on with the low amount of health in order to get this kill onto Marin.
Yeah, also Febiven was just chasing Marin right there, landing a ton of ease before he could even get into that team fight. So he showed up without a lot of HP. Wow. And here we go, right back to the Dragon. Fnatic did choose to recall.
Yep, that's right. Bengi lurking close by as well as so is Wolf right behind the pit. Looks like they might just give this one up though. It's not the biggest deal, I suppose, if Fnatic takes it. But hey, Fnatic, the first team this tournament to get a Dragon against SK Telecom. How about that?
Yeah, well played.
Wow.
Great job by Fnatic, especially overcoming this huge disadvantage in the bottom lane. Steelback and Yellowstar, just tracking the gold in this game already. It's already a 900 gold difference between Bang and Steelback, so that will definitely be a problem as this moves on, because not only does Bang have the one-on-one advantage, he will also get the added support of a Nunu and a Lulu. If we're talking about Bang being able to solo carry games, that's almost what he's going to have to end up doing this game. You know, the scaling from Fnatic is still pretty spectacular, so there's actually not that long, and Bang has to really extend this advantage as far as possible.
We know Bang is capable of carrying games in the clutch for SK Telecom. That's how SKT managed to get to the finals of champions just a week ago, a couple weeks ago. So not a big worry there.
Well, the difference, though, between that game, you really can't underestimate how important that Dragon for Fnatic was. Because SKT has to accelerate this game towards 5 Dragons and continue to get that Dragon with a composition like this to make up for their weaker scaling. So that was actually very crucial in the win that they had against CJ. So delaying that for Fnatic is absolutely huge.
Faker just going to pick up a little bit more CS in lane. But Fnatic, they've got the opportunity that we're looking for. And now, I mean, what do you do at this point if you're Fnatic to sort of keep this going? Oh, never mind, a little bit of fight in the top lane. Ward does go, tower does go down later, but Bengi will go down.
Whoa.
Up top, Fnatic managing to catch him there. Here comes Marin, but Yellowstar there to protect Reignover. I don't think he's going to be able to pick that one up. No, Marin has to go back and sit under turret.
Good roam by Yellowstar, but he is leaving Steelback out a bit to dry on that bottom side. He's now behind.
We're going to keep going.
Whoa, here comes Reignover back over the wall again. This may not have been wise, but here comes Huni. Martin in a little bit of trouble, and Fnatic gets another one. What is going on?
I really like Fnatic's adaptation here because they basically just left Steelback there to do what he can, but they're actually trying to make plays where they have the strength on the map right now, and it's really working out. And Marin has been a big carry force throughout this tournament, and they're starting to shut him down. And
Fnatic is playing around Huni. We were really excited for this Huni versus Marin matchup. The jungle pressure early was favored towards Huni. Reignover gave him those early ganks, and both in the Dragon fight and that gank there, it's been about Huni's impact in these things. To answer your earlier question, though, about what Fnatic needs to do, they need to continue to play around Huni, and they also need to stop Bang from accelerating this game via turret kills. So any type of turret defense or counter pushes is absolutely crucial for Fnatic.
Makes sense. Well, SKT was able to get that first turret of the game down in bot lane right as that gank up in top was happening. But that's about all they've got going for them at the moment. Gold's still pretty even, of course, because of that CS situation between the lanes. In fact, down in bot, way ahead. SKT looking to take their second turret here. Let's see if they let them.
One thing Marin did do in this top side is Steelback.
Oh boy, here comes Reignover. Steelback getting roasted by Marin, but now Marin in a little bit of trouble again. Really desperate for that kill. On to Steelback, can't get it. Some desperation creeping into Marin's moves here on the map. Now Bengi caught out in the jungle. This may cost Fnatic their top turret, but either way, it's going to be another kill maybe for Fnatic. Bengi trying to back away. So close, but it looks like, oh, maybe he'll be able to make it, but here comes Febim over the wall. A kill for Febim, gets exhausted immediately. Huni hopping to safety, but here comes Faker. A kill for Bang. Wolf knocking Febim out of the fight for now. They're going to keep chasing. This may be another one. Will it be the double for Faker? Taking a lot of damage, but it will be. Meanwhile, a turret goes down in bot. That is true. Reignover could try to do something. Meanwhile, Marin back in bot lane. The turret's evened up.
He tried to get the kill right there with the home guard engage, but couldn't quite find it even after TPing down into that bottom side.
Yeah, that's a lot of pressure lost from SKT after that, because we think about that fight that happened. It was a 2-for-2, but at the end of the day, it was a turret defense for Fnatic and a turret take for them in the bottom lane as well. Fnatic is showing here that they are the most inconsistent team at MSI. Because,
I guess so, yeah.
Because this is what Fnatic can look like when they're at their best sometimes. With Huni going around and making plays, Reignover is free to gank and be a huge factor. Those two in conjunction with strong play from Febiven, this is the map control and team fighting that Fnatic got the European LCS Championship with.
Yeah, and there we go. Turret finally goes down. Marin was able to push up that lane for most of this game, so just a little bit of HP left on that one. I'd love to see the mid lane turret, see how that's going. About 50% right now.
Yep.
Okay.
50% health on the mid lane turret.
And Steelback doing whatever he can to kind of get back into this game gold-wise. Still way behind in CS, but farming in a bit of the jungle.
And you can see that SKT is trying to abuse that as much as possible. Every time there's an outer turret, that's the lane that Bang is going for, which should end up being a magnet for team fights if you're Fnatic right now, because they're the ones that control the Sejuani and the Nautilus for initiation tools, and they should be attacking SKT wherever SKT goes to try and accelerate this turret game.
Well, Faker having to go up to the top lane to save that turret, but it has like basically no health remaining. Meanwhile, Fnatic pressuring mid. Bang trying to save it as best he can. For the moment anyway, SK Telecom has a turret lead, but I don't think that's going to last. What is going to be interesting here is in 30 seconds, the next dragon pops up, and Fnatic already trying to clear out a little bit of vision there. Wolf doesn't like that. And here comes Bengi. Reignover has to retreat over the wall. Looks like they'll clear each other's wards out for now.
Still, it's a tough position for SKT.
Yeah.
Huni has his TP up. Marin does not, because he didn't get that kill onto Steelback with it in the bottom side, and now They're going to try and take that turret and delay SKT as long as possible on this Dragon, and then try and force a fight after.
A couple of differences between this Dragon and the last one. The deep ward coverage by SKT is extraordinary, and this time they don't have to wait for Marn to teleport in. He can get an instant equalizer, so if Fnatic wanted to fight, they would be late to the party.
Well, here we go. SK Telecom able to burst down this Dragon and take it. They'll trade their top turret for it, but now they move into the mid lane. Will they maybe be able to take down the final outer turret of Fnatic here?
Rumble's going back to defend tier 2.
Yep. For now, we do have Huni coming in from behind, too. For the moment. Thinking about it. No, back to top lane.
He has to recall extremely quickly.
Uh-oh. Yeah, he's got to get out of here there. But here comes Marin. Can he get out? Flame Spitter.
Smart.
Okay. That works.
Smart in the sense that it saved his life.
Yeah.
Not smart in the sense that he had stuck around that long after the Dragon had been forfeited. He was trying to create a little bit of pressure. If he was going to burn the teleport for that rotation, they would have needed something elsewhere, but the minion waves are just not in play. So that was a decent-sized mistake from Huni, and it eliminates their teleport threat that they would have in the next fight.
No recall for Feb, then he's going to need to back off a little bit slower here. Yeah, TP advantage will go over to SK Telecom for a little while once Marins comes back up, which won't be too long in the future here. SK Telecom, though, putting a lot of pressure onto this mid lane. Bang, pushing people away with the culling. A lot of damage on Febvin. Really connected well on that one. Oh, but here comes Rain over the top. Is Fnatic going to fight this? Might be tough. Bengi comes in. Faker's still full health. With all the damage that Febvin took, I think it's going to be tough to try to turn this into a team fight. Doesn't look like Fnatic wants to.
Well, they still have a Sivir here to wave clear, so they managed to scramble enough people into the mid lane that SKT will have a bit of trouble taking this turret.
Both teams do appear to be on the same page about what is needed to win this game right here. SKT continually moving towards this mid lane, and Fnatic is putting just enough threat to keep it going, but they are falling behind that curve a little bit. You can see the side waves are continually pushing in SKT's favor. Fnatic is getting poked out a little bit too much, especially by that culling from Bang, and that mid turret is getting chipped away at.
Yeah, it does not have a lot of health remaining at this point. Only about a third, it looks like. Bang continuing to push that lane. Marin's down in bot 2, actually. Maybe going to get a deep ward in here.
Just checking blue buff right now, seeing how much pressure they can put on. They're trying to draw people away from mid. So
there it goes. Mid lane turret down. SK Telecom has killed all 3 outer turrets now.
Now they're pinging onto the blue buff. They want to take this next.
SKT is in the midst of a power spike. The death cap being completed onto Faker with 2 major items being completed onto Bang is potentially their strongest point in comparison to Fnatic team comp this game, and they need to take as much as possible out of this moment.
And we'll see what they can do. Faker moving up through the river. Maybe they can try to catch Huni here. They know he doesn't have the teleport at least.
Huni's really hard for Faker to gank, though. He has a Veil already.
That Banshee's Veil is a really smart first buy for Huni. Certainly has done well for him. Meanwhile, Faker will just be happy with a little bit more farm. And so, the game at this point, could we just kind of see it stall out right now until the next Dragon?
It's going to be really hard for SKT to push through to get a tier 2, so I imagine that is what we're going to see,
The only way we'd see a fight beforehand, I feel like, is if SKT gets a little bit greedy with their deep ward placements in preparation for the Dragon, or if Fnatic walks into a trap while trying to also get the wards for that Dragon.
Well, for now, everybody playing really safe, and we can't blame them. Like, this game is balanced on a knife's edge. This is actually, I think, one of the closest games we've seen yet this tournament.
Absolutely. I'd say it is the closest game we've seen so far this tournament.
Well, look at the gold. It's dead even right now. You know, SKT just ahead by a single turret. Power level's pretty similar on both teams at the moment.
And it's the most subdued we've seen Fnatic play. They've been losing their minds in a lot of these games. As soon as they started falling behind, they'd go crazy. This game, they're making more calculated decisions, and honestly, SKT is mostly playing like SKT would. They're not doing silly things, and they're still trying to play around their win conditions here, which is going to be the Dragons. They had that setback right here, which is what's kept this game close 23.5 minutes in.
You know, even with the scaling that Fnatic has in late game, it's got to be a little bit daunting to know that you're going to have to deal with those SK Telecom team fight mechanics, but they've held their own so far.
I'm trying to set up a pick right now.
Yep.
Got a pink ward in that river brush.
Trying to Fnatic.
Let's see if they can get anything. No, they see the ward go down. Just going to sweep it out instead. So wait for the next minute and a half. SKT not comfortable pushing up too far at this point.
Well, Bengi's going to take down the Rift Coward, and he deserves it.
in games like this, I always love to track the trinket upgrades. So Fnatic actually has 3 upgraded yellow trinkets, which means they are spamming things with wards, but it also gives them a very low amount of pick potential because their vision denial is atrocious right now. Yes, they upgraded 4 of the trinkets, but it's just 1 upgraded trinket. As I say that, they find a pick.
Yep, Huni trying to make something happen here. Rainover came in. There's a culling to push them away. It looks like SKT will be able to disengage for now. And that ult down on Sejuani, will that be something that SKT can maybe take advantage of here? Dragon up in 45 seconds.
Wolf's ult down as well, though, too. So that's
true.
pretty important for tanking out and being on the front line. And heading back into the top side at the moment. Faker going to recall and start to set up. Currently, though, SK Telecom has control over that river. And everyone has been pushed back a little bit here. Waves slowly moving forward in favor of SK Telecom. They're going to have to deal with Marin in the bottom at some point.
Yeah, this is, I feel like the Alistar ult versus Sejuani ult and Sivir ult is a worthy trade for SKT in that sense.
Oh, yeah.
I think another reason Fnatic has gone for the triple sites wards is they know that SKT needs to find the picks, and also Fnatic doesn't necessarily need a vision advantage in order to find fights. Since they do have Sejuani, Sivir, Nautilus, those are fight starters right there. As soon as you look at someone, you can run straight at them and try and get it.
Speaking of fight starters, we may have one here in the next couple seconds. SK Telecom, though, taking that position. Looks like they may just go ahead and grab Dragon.
Without Sejuani ult or Sivir ult, this is a dangerous fight. But they're teleporting in with Gnar right now.
Alistar grabs Bang. Bang backs into the pit here. They're trying to make something happen. Bengi already taking a lot of damage. Wild Growth used on him. Dragon taken by SK Telecom. Can they get out? Huni comes in with a big Gnar ultimate. Meanwhile, Marin very low behind the pit. They'll get the kill onto Bengi. So Fnatic grabs a kill, but SK Telecom getting that crucial 3rd Dragon.
A little awkward positioning there from Bang, and they had to use the Wild Growth onto Nunu, which meant that they couldn't actually defend that adequately. Now, they may try for a Baron right here.
If anything, this is also a Baron bait. Now the initiation ultimates are up for Fnatic. They are trying to draw SKT in. Because it would be a thing they have to go and stop. Here they come!
In trouble. Oh, he manages to get out, only slowed by the ult from Rainover. Rainover chasing anyway. Here comes Huni. Rainover gets so low already, though. Faker trapped the mid lane, has to flash away, Whimsy himself as well. Wolf may sacrifice his life for the team. Oh, Febiven goes in, gets the double up, Bang, and Faker in trouble. Double kill for Febiven. Marin late to the fight here, and Wolf on his own in the back lines. Febiven with a triple now. Oh, man, a kill for Steelback as well, and Fnatic destroys SKT in that fight.
SKT fell for it right there. Fnatic pulled the trigger on the Baron bait. The thing is, SKT had to check because Fnatic with the Cassiopeia has the power to burn that Baron down in seconds. That was the play for Fnatic to pull at the end of the Dragon fight.
Yeah, Bang did get slowed right there as we see him come in with the culling, but the chase is very good. Of course, that Sivir ult up, really nice setup, and Faker caught out a bit on the front line, and really it was Febiven with this flash into the choke point right here. Beautiful ultimate from Cassiopeia, and then just the line damage and the ricochets from Sivir finish that one off. Boomerang blade for a double.
They call Steelback the janitor in the European LCS. He'll lose lane, but he will always pick it up in team fights down the stretch. And this was just a continuation of the long con there for Fnatic. The Dragon fight, when SKT overcommitted to take it, they had awkward positioning. They burned so many spells doing that. They sacrificed Bengi for the Dragon, but then the low health bars and the fact that people had to recall set up for that Fnatic Baron perfectly, and now Fnatic needs to press that advantage.
Oh, they're certainly trying.
They are.
Baiting Baron another one up, but the Scrying Orb's going to spot him this time. Yep. Not going to fall for that 2 times in a row. SK Telecom may be looking for a fight here, although Marin not around. He does have that teleport. Now Fnatic just turning right onto that Baron. Looks like SKT is going to spot it.
Equalizer in the Baron pit is tremendously dangerous.
That's right. They're going to come in. There's the Equalizer going down. Splits the team a little bit. Bang still in a little bit of trouble. Zoning out from Bengi. Oh, SKT getting knocked around quite a bit. Bang in the middle of everything. Backs away. Gets killed anyway by Steelback. That's another double kill for him onto Sivir. And SKT, it may already be too late. They can't fight this Fnatic team anymore. Baron did regenerate, and that's going to make it a little bit too dangerous. They may still pay for this one, but no. Looks like they'll be able to barely make it out.
Even though the equalizer is down, it's far too dangerous with the Baron Magic Shred to keep on rolling with the Rumble and the Lulu at full HP in that pit. Now they eliminated Bang, and SK Telecom clumped up in a very preferable way for Fnatic during that team fight. So take a look.
Considering this is 15 kills to 3, these fights are tremendously close. So at the start of this, Wolf does get some nice pulverized damage right there, and Bang nearly peels himself to safety, but yes, the fact that they landed the Gnar stun into the dredge line is what kept Bang a little bit too close for comfort. They get caught up in the Cassiopeia once again, and that's that area damage and the team fight scaling we talk about Fnatic having. But still, if Bang is one character model farther back, he might be able to just rip through that fight.
It's been like really tiny errors that have led to these team fight losses for SK Telecom, but you know, every fight they lose just gives Fnatic a little bit bigger of a lead, and like we mentioned earlier, with the scaling that Fnatic has going into the late game, you really can't afford to give them any lead. It doesn't matter who you are. At some point, it's just going to be too much.
And I think if you're SKT right now, you're really looking to finally get that QSS onto Bang, because that's going to change a lot about these fights. Because if Bang can stay alive, he certainly has the farm to pull off some pretty major team fight wins right here, and that's what's been slowing him down a little bit. But they probably can't fight again until that item is complete, and dragging up in a minute and a half, looks like Fnatic will definitely have an advantage on that one, and they may just try and trade it for Baron. There are a lot of options that they can go for right here, so
sure enough.
Tough for SKT because they have to play both sides of the river at the same time, but Fnatic has their choice.
And Fnatic also has the Sivir ultimate to cover ground in case they're caught between two different decisions. And you can obviously see SKT is respecting that team fight power right now. They had a ton of wards around that Baron, but the pinks have just been able to be used by Fnatic to clear that out. And yeah, they're going to continue to bait out that scrying orb again and again. Now it's all on the scrying orb cooldown.
There we go.
SKT has to move up. They have to move up to clear that, but you can see now the lack of trinket is preventing Fnatic from having great vision denial. Here they go.
Didn't really do a whole lot. Ultimate onto Bang. There's
but he's dead. Make it on.
Oh, nice Gnar ultimate as well. SK Telecom caught yet again. Wild Growth. It keeps Bang alive though. Marin comes in with the kill onto Yellowstar, and Fnatic in a lot of trouble now. Steelback gets roasted. That's a double for Marin, and Bang's still up. SK Telecom, they finally save Bang, and look what happens. Marin comes in with a hero play, and Fnatic on the run. Fev in a little bit of trouble. There's the exhaust. Faker wants it. Bang gets it. Meanwhile, Huni sticking around. Looks like he may be able to make it out. He's trying to defend that tier 2, but I don't think you can do that against SK Telecom. Not right now. There it is. So SKT, man, you just can't count these guys out.
What a brilliant fight right there from SKT. It was Fnatic pulling the trigger to try and get Bang down, but that Nautilus ult tracked such a long distance that they could not follow enough damage for Bang, and now the Baron Force reverses. Here comes Huni.
Man. They start the Baron, they turn on to Rainover. Huni right there as well. He's about to become Mega Gnar. Wolf very low health. Huni comes in from behind, getting in position for that old Faker.
He's stolen!
There it is! Whoa! Rainover steals the Baron! And SK Telecom, what are they going to do? They're going to try to get some kills here. Oh, but look at this. Huni manages to grab one. SKT in the end, as Huni finally goes down with that Whimsy. Wow, Huni just will not die here. Now Steelback coming. What? Can he do enough damage? Are you serious? There's a kill for Steelback. And Fnatic, they steal the Baron. They get 2 kills off of it. They trade 2 of their own, but
they lost a Baron with Bengi with Consume and Smite.
I can't believe
Rainover gets in there and actually pulls it off.
Well, Bengi didn't even smite that one.
Yeah, and this all started with this fight when they try and jump on Bang. Huni had the flank for teleport, but honestly, the equalizer in the middle of the Nunu wall. You could not place it more perfectly in there, and a full channel wrecks Fnatic. Trying to dive through all that stuff is difficult for Fnatic, but that isn't even the craziest thing about this game. This is Fnatic making it their style game.
Now, SKT was trying to get some position onto that.
They burned the Sivir ult, though.
Sivir ult is down. Fnatic trying to get the second dragon. They've got the Baron right now. Double mystery gifting activated, guys. Don't forget.
It was a Baron steal. Round 15. Let's go.
Oh, stolen! Marin! No, Marin comes in from the back. Gets out. Oh, Febiven takes him down. Big Wild Growth on the Bang. That was a big knockup. Can Bang be the hero again? Huni just so tanky right now. Yellowstar coming from behind. And here comes Steelback. Another big Gnar ultimate. And Fnatic alive, but either way, it's another team fight win. That is a perfect ace for Fnatic after the Dragon Steal from Marin, and Fnatic's going to push ahead. This is at least going to be an inhibitor, I would think.
Yeah, at the very least going to be an inhibitor. That's probably all they can get right now.
Yeah. At this point, this is the craziest game we've seen at MSI.
Seriously. 22
kills against SKT. The previous was 6 for the most kills they've given up in a game, and that was against TSM. Right here, Fnatic. This is nuts.
They don't get the inhibitor, they get the turret, but just not enough minions, having to tank too much turret damage, but still a big win for Fnatic.
But even though SKT, did you see the blue buff taken? And no equalizer right there, no backup. But even though we see the ace go over to Fnatic, they don't take the inhibitor. Let's take a look at this fight. So Culling comes in first right here. Marin actually manages to take the dragon away, but not the best equalizer, and he does get picked off. Can't quite take out the Vivin right there.
And the fact that Steelback wasn't taken very low right there is a bit of an overcommit. And like, look how long that Bang actually lasts on the backside of this fight.
Wow.
Beautiful gnarled from Huni. He has been completely on point this game. And then again, we see Steelback coming in as a bit of the janitor. This time there was no equalizer to help zone for Bang. So when everyone's chasing after that one threat in a big line, they don't have as much line damage to throw at him, and eventually they can pick up the most kills. But yes, Monty, we need to take stock of this game because it has been so crazy.
That dragon was actually incredibly important that SK Telecom got it. And it may, in fact, be worth getting ace for, because if they get number 5, it really starts to change.
Dragon was on 22 health when Marin hit it with 100. That's how
Steelback.
Oh, Steelback might be in a little bit of trouble here. Marin turning. Yeah, here comes Faker, who's going to get the kill. Faker gets that shutdown. Faker's starting to get scary, man. He's got Death Cap, he's got the Void Staff. That's a lot of damage now for this Lulu, and they're going to push up to this tier 2 turret.
Yeah, and taking stock of what SK needs, they're still powering up in this sense. A QSS has been completed for Bang. If he finishes his Blade of the Ruin King, he will start being able to cut through Rainover and Huni, and especially with that catch that they've been able to get, how much damage can they actually think about doing to this since they have the Death Cap powered up Lulu? Bang gets shots in on this turret.
One thing I want to point out, though, is how fantastic Yellowstar has been at locking down Bang in this game.
Yeah.
His dredge lines, his ultimates have been on point.
Yeah, certainly been some bloodthirsty support. He's 1-2-14. That is not bad. I mean, it's crazy that the game feels as close as it does when you look at the kills, 9-22 right now. But like you mentioned earlier, that 4th dragon that SKT got is huge.
It's a farm, too.
Yeah.
The farm between Bang and Steelback is immense.
Yep.
So SKT has been controlling the side waves more in order to get those dragons, but as they're getting the dragons, Fnatic is right on their heels, and that's what's given Fnatic this big kill advantage. If we think about all the fights that have gone Fnatic's way, it was that second dragon fight when they got it, then the dragon that transitioned into the Baron, and finally the dragon steal for Marin that transitioned into the ace for Fnatic. Pretty much everything that Fnatic has gotten has been kind of because SKT's committed for those 4 dragons.
Faker's not here.
Fnatic wants this inhibitor, and the Wolf is taking a lot of damage. Rainover coming in. Are they going to be able to get the kill?
Marin's behind them.
Everyone moving in. Yeah, Marin trying to get a bit of a flank, decides against it. They just need to protect that inhibitor, but they can't do it. Or maybe, nope, they can't. SKT turning things around. But Fnatic just waltzes in and takes the first inhibitor of the game.
Big mistake by SK Telecom. Fnatic seeing that everyone was split off into the side waves.
Yep.
And they're able just to push straight down the middle and take the inhibitor. Baron up in a minute and a half.
And Dragon up in a minute 45 too. That's a big one.
Yeah, and Fnatic has been so opportunistic in this game. Anytime SKT commits for something or commits for some minion kills, they can go elsewhere. Blade of the Ruin King completed onto Bang now. Faker sitting at 4 items, but the team fights again and again have gone to Fnatic. Both those Baron and Dragons are coming up around the same time. If SKT gets either one of them, they can turn this game around. Fnatic needs to control it, but they do not have control of their minion waves.
SKT getting some nice deep wards in behind that Baron, just kind of keep an eye on things. Now they're going to move down, see if they can ward up that Dragon as well, too. So the map is being prepared by SK Telecom. They are setting the battleground. You know, can they win the fight, though?
Fnatic still pushing forward. I mean, they're going to have plenty of time to get a hold of the river once again, and they already have deep wards as well, so they're in a perfectly acceptable position at the time being.
Assuming we don't see a crazy pick, this fight will all be about how Fnatic can push through the tank line to get to Bang, and whether they get the burst.
Oh, high ran over.
Whoa!
The wall, he comes with the flash, and he's going to take a lot of damage. SK Telecom, oh, big ult on the back below. There's the inhibitor. You don't want to go through that. And Huni taking a lot of damage. Nice ult for Marin, actually, to keep Fnatic away. Yellowstar bounce back into the team. And now SK Telecom getting 2 kills. Oh, boy, here we go. SKT chasing Steelback and Femivin. Back through again. Snowball, opposite of a fireball, onto Femivin. Bengi gets stunned with that ult. Femivin just trying to disengage. SK Telecom, I feel like they could just turn maybe and try to take Baron.
After those 2 kills, they got a lot of presence over here.
Yeah.
And there was a really weird interaction when Rainover tried to go over that wall. It looked like a bug on stream, but they're not pausing, though. I'm not sure. He could report that as a bug, because he looked to be on the other side of the wall.
He bounced back through the wall. That wasn't, he had to burn his flash afterwards. It's SKT
Baron right now, though.
Going for the Baron.
SK Telecom takes the Baron. Fnatic going for this dragon, though. At least they can keep that 5th dragon away from SKT. Marin trying his best, though. He stole one. Can he steal another one? No, turning back onto Steelback. Oh, Steelback, meanwhile, just blows up Marin. Fnatic gets that 2nd dragon. And SK Telecom with the Baron.
Not sure what Marin was doing there. His team
That was a bit odd.
Not anywhere close to being able to contest that. It's like Faker just going to prep the red buff for Bang right now, who's on his way over.
Yep.
This game just continued in craziness as Sejuani dashed overall, then looked like it glitched back on the other side. But the important thing here is Steelback critting Marin a couple of times in a row and blowing him up.
No
they could then secure the dragon. SKT has the Baron.
Well, this is part of the peril of going for the death cap build for Marin as well. I mean, Steelback is huge right now. 9-2 and 7. No Zhonya's on him yet. And he went for the damage, and in a way he's paying for it. They need a little bit more frontline presence.
Yeah, that may have been just a little bit too cocky, trying to go for that death cap instead of that Zhonya's for the 2nd item. Oh man, that's rough. Fnatic, though, got that dragon. They prevented the 5th. SK Telecom still on the back foot here. You can see they're not really able to use that Baron right now.
Well, in that last team fight, you really saw the difference that the Blade of the Ruined King was making, too. They were finally able to focus down Huni.
Culling does a little bit of damage. Not a ton. Oh, Bang really going after Fnatic right now.
This is Bang's moment. This is why Lulu can be a good late game champion as well. If you have a capable AD carry who's been able to farm this whole game, which he has, 384 CS, with the item build that he needs, he can cut through Fnatic if they don't quickly get onto him and execute him through thousands of health worth of shields. Plus the Baron buff means Fnatic pretty much has to fight on the next minion wave.
Yep. See
Marin still split pushing, does have TP available. They want to make a stand, but Fnatic's so tanky that they can body block a lot of this damage and have that presence. SK Telecom moving into the top side of the map. See if they can find an angle up there. Big minion wave that Marin's built up.
Huni is just huge, though, but he's not going to be Mega Gnar anytime soon. Getting closer now. Looks like Fnatic will be able to prevent this. SK Telecom, you get the impression that they may need to win a team fight here to push farther, but that turret's pretty low.
Figure has Lich Bane, so they can split push.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're going to be running Fnatic back and forth within their own base and chipping down these turrets during the duration of this Baron buff and basically force Fnatic to engage on them through the zoning potential of Alistar, Nunu, and Rumble. Look at the chipping they've been able to do to both the mid and the top lane turrets right here. And since there's no flank from Fnatic, it's a very difficult fight for them to do. Huni actually just ran out of Mega Gnar. This is SKT's turret to take.
That's right, and take it they do. Huni not too helpful at the moment with that Gnar bar all the way down. Marin grasping a bit. Bang comes in as well. Huni has to retreat. Looks like this inhibitor may go down, so both mid and Hib taken out for each team, and SK Telecom just going to back off. Sivir all popped. Are they going to go? Oh, Huni didn't quite get to Bang. Meanwhile, Wolf comes back with a headbutt. Pulverize. Great equalizer comes down. Rainover trying to get the back lines, but Bengi with a big absolute zero. Marin is huge, literally, because that wild growth. Huni manages to catch Faker with his ultimate, but Faker backing away. Fnatic in big trouble. Double kill for Bang already. Make it a triple kill, and now SK Telecom, despite that big ult for Femivin.
Bang's going in.
Oh, Femivin near Penta. That's a pentakill, I believe. Yes, it is for Bang and SK Telecom. Can they end it right now? There's no minion wave, not for a few seconds, but they've got
no
plenty
tankiness
of time.
either. No minion wave, no super minions at at the base yet. I think they have to hold off.
Oh, they've got
30-second death timer. That's a super minion.
There it is. First
a
one.
real super minion. A pentakill and a Baron steal in the same game.
Are you kidding me?
It's a hell of a game.
Well, Fnatic gave SK Telecom a run for their money like nobody else could, but in the end, SKT takes the game. They're 4-0. GG. What a game. What an ending.
You know,
crazy.
Best game of the mid-season Invitational thus far.
Absolutely. But the more I see this comp from SK Telecom, if you guys missed the SKT versus CJ Game 4, it was just as much of a thriller.
Oh, yeah.
I'm still not sold that this is a really good composition.
It works.
It's an exciting composition.
It is the most exciting composition, but it does have some issues, I think.
It certainly does, but either way, it worked well enough to get SK Telecom the win. Fans on their feet right now after that pentakill from Bang.
I mean, so many things to talk about at this game. They were down 10 kills by the end of it, only an 1,100 gold lead when the Nexus fell. The fact that Bang hit those item power spikes as well as Faker being able to shield them, and when Fnatic failed to get the flank in that final team fight after their inhibitor had gone down, that's right in the wheelhouse of the team fight that SKT wants.
Oh, yeah.
And you give them one of those fights, they win the game.
The kiting, too, from Bang in that last fight.
Beautiful.
That's one of the things that I love about watching Bang play Lucian is he knows exactly the right time to turn and then clean up the fight.
Yeah, Bang's Lucian is really kind of getting to be something to be absolutely terrified of. And so, with that, SK Telecom, it was close. It was close, but still undefeated today. So now, guys, let's head to the analyst desk for some more insight into that game.
Thank you, Doa. I mean, that game, that was an exciting game. We've seen some stomps, we've seen some surprising games, but this was a game that kept us on the edge of our seats for the entirety of it. I do love the fight that Fnatic put up. I love their aggression. These guys did not want to go down.
I think that Fnatic exactly got what they wanted in this game. They got ahead in kills. Steelback, sadly, again, behind in the CS. I think he has an average CS differential by minus 25 CS by 20 minutes. And that's actually huge over all the games that he has played. Coming back, though, Huni, really huge for the team. Coming to the mid lane, getting the first blood on Faker, roaming twice before Marin. I think Huni was the reason they came out ahead really in the early game.
My favorite part about the game was the compositions that these teams were running. The first one on Fnatic's side is a heavy AoE run at you with Sivir. You get the Cassiopeia ulti for even more lockdown. Nara, Sejuani, clump them together, pile them onto your team. Lots of damage, and they play to that strength. On the other side, SKT's comp is more of a protect the Lucian composition with Rumble kind of ulting the backline. You saw everybody pile driving the Lucian, trying to make sure that he stays dead, because Lulu isn't necessarily a carry, more of a supportive AP, and Rumble without the Zhonya's is very easy to blow up. And in the team fights, we see how the ones that Fnatic wins are the ones that they manage to get all their damage onto Bang. The ones that they lose, well, he barely escapes, but is a little bit of a misplay.
Yeah, and the composition that SKT was running is actually a really, really amazing composition in my opinion, because Rumble's going to provide a ton of magic damage, cover that option, Lulu as well. But then Help Picks actually interacts with Lightslinger, proccing the Help Picks twice. And what it does is it's 15% of your AP if all of them hit. So off of that, that's 30% of his AP, when plus 100 base damage per shot. So Lucian's doing 320 extra magic damage every time he gets a Lightslinger passive off. And that's why he's running through the team, and he gets a Blade of the Ruined King eventually to deal with the tanks, because he's not a tank shredder naturally.
Right, on top of that, you have the Alistar button people away from him. You have Nunu, you have Lulu to give him the ultimate, speed him up, shield him. I mean, it is almost impossible to get to Bang in this composition.
Yeah, I feel like we saw pretty much defend the Lucian against go on the Lucian as hard as you can. And that is a style that Fnatic is really used to play, and what we saw them going actually into the LCS split really heavily with Rengar, Lissandra, lock down the carries and instantly kill them. And I feel this is really a comfortable champion pool that they went for this game and executed it perfectly. I think Yellowstar, as I think Monty also said, really on point with the lockdown.
I think Fnatic played most of the fights very well, but I do think that Bengi was lackluster in understanding his role within that composition. We saw him try to be a frontline and kind of distract Sivir on the side when she was very tanky. You know, he's going for a bit of a magic resist build. You can't stand in the front line versus a composition that has so much damage from Fnatic. You need to be really far back with the Lucian and use your snowball on the Gnar. The Gnar auto attacks hurt a lot. Use it on the Sejuani. Don't stand and try to zone the Sivir. That's why Sivir's not a hyper carry, because she's a short range mage AD. You don't need to zone her. She practically zones herself.
I want to jump into our replay to continue talking about the interaction between these two teams. So we're going to pull that up, and Irene, you can continue.
I feel like this is how he should play the Nunu, is just zone everybody away and kind of create two different fights. You're going to see Bengi here use the ultimate, keep Featherthen out. He actually misses his ultimate there, and then Bang survives. Faker comes around the side, pours everything onto Bang, and now Bang gets to output so much damage into this fight right afterwards. And I think that Bengi, although he gets extremely low from it, I think that's the proper way to play the Nunu here.
I think it's important to note, though, for this team fight, they power drive the CC on the Lucian, and Feviven walks up just out of range to hit the Cassiopeia ulti. That would have won them. That would have won them the fight, but he missed the ultimate on Bang, and then they just get cleaned up after.
Scared of the Nunu, and if he had walked into the zone, he may have been a little too slow to actually cover that distance to get in range of the
And not only that, I think on top of that, what we can see is 3 flashes up for Fnatic after this fight, especially on Cassiopeia, who could have easily go on Bang and instantly kill him there. And I think the team fight would have been absolutely different because Fnatic was so far ahead at this point. I think they could have just snowballed from there.
But that was the story of the entire game, was team fight after team fight. Fnatic taking a lot of them through that mid game in their favor. I do also want to look at, though, the way that the gold was even through the earlier stages of the game. However, it wasn't even in turrets. However, Fnatic up in kills, down in CS, and you already mentioned Steelback, but that I feel could be the downfall of them in this tournament if they can't shore up those weaknesses.
I think SKT did a really good job of playing to their strengths and playing to the weaknesses of Fnatic. They exploited Steelback. As soon as Steelback was down in CS and they bullied that lane, well, you would see Marin, he'd die in the lane, he'd be like, okay, TP to a minion to just stop him from farming again. And then his Steelback would go up to the jungle, Nunu would walk in and steal the wolves that he was trying to do. They're just trying to starve him out and make sure he didn't get anything and get into the game at all.
Right, well, that being said, SKT leading up to this had averaged about a 1.2K gold lead at 10 minutes. Marin had the highest average gold lead for at MSI of anyone with 750. Didn't happen here, though. Yeah. And I think that is something that I want to look at in terms of what can teams learn from what Fnatic did to give themselves a better shot earlier on against SKT.
Well, even against the Turkish team, SKT has been notorious for giving quite a few early kills, and Fnatic took advantage of that greatly. Good roams by them, and really sticking to the game plan, knowing where the weaknesses of SKT lie. And, you know, eventually you take so many team fights, and you're bound to lose a couple in such team fighting decided games. It's only one that needs to happen for you to win.
I really see that whenever SKT is going into mid-game or early game control style, they have this point from where everything is controlled and they know how the lanes are. And usually how the games are happening is somebody is like getting pushed in and they do something they don't expect. I didn't see any kind of top lane roam like this before in the tournament. They were really not expecting it and hit them hard.
That's really big. I feel like the thing to take away from this game is top lane influence, even without a TP. Because this is something that SK Telecom used to do with Impact in the top lane Season 3, before TP was a big thing. He would roam down to mid and gank for Faker randomly, and you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa, why is the top laner and the support here? And they would snowball that lane really hard. So I think that people should take away from this that top laners need to be aggressive sometimes and actually influence other lanes and almost be like a second jungler sometimes after you shove the wave.
The next thing I want to bring up here is the pick ban phase against SKT. Again, we've talked about the threats on their team. Faker, you always have to ban the LeBlanc. The Lulu, though, that comes out, and how this is kind of the crux of this team composition here. You remove the Lulu, all of a sudden Lucian's DPS drops through the floor, and his safety does as well.
I'm going to have to disagree with that one because they banned the LeBlanc, the Kalista, and the Rek'Sai. So 3 other key champions that have been undefeated for quite some time. And you're just going to have to take a hit. When these teams are so good, you're going to have to let one of the power picks slide through. And you put the Lulu on Faker, now he's not a carry threat. he has to get really in the late game for him to do enough damage to one-shot somebody out of nowhere. He's more of a supportive player for Bang. So I liked what they did with the pick of the man. It was the execution that could have been refined, and they would have had the win.
I like that we also had to see another element of Bengi here, see him on the Nunu, because he kept getting that Rek'Sai, and it's like, this guy is so good on his early games.
I like the Rek'Sai more than the Nunu.
You know, talk about Rek'Sai, though. Let's just talk about Rek'Sai in general in this tournament has been phenomenal. It wasn't really performing so well post-Cinderhulk, you know, 37% win percentage across the regions, but in this tournament, just a high priority, and I think a portion of that has to be due to the speed of these games. These games are ending a lot quicker.
I think it has to do with the adaptation that before, with the introduction of Cinderhulk, a lot of people refused to switch over from Warrior Enchantment Rek'Sai to Cinderhulk and be more of a frontline CC bot. People still want to be, oh, I want to be a carry, you know, build a Hydra and my Warrior's Enchantment. Now they're just, okay, we'll build full tank, go with the Cinderhulk, use a ground passive, and just become a threat of knockup every time. And once that change has been made, Rek'Sai's win rate, I think, has been soaring ever since.
Yeah, I think Rek'Sai is really strong right now, especially on live, too, with Black Cleaver. Like, if you want to build that, I think it's really potent.
Well, yeah, I can't wait to see that item appear in competitive play. Sheepy, to you, Fnatic here, that's a long game. So physically exhausting. It's a game that you were ahead in, that you looked like you were going to win. You didn't. How does Fnatic, and I'm asking you this as a coach, how do you as a team get yourselves prepared for the next match that you have with your spot in the playoffs on the line?
I feel Fnatic should feel comfortable really here. What they did was a really great showing against supposedly the strongest team in this entire tournament. And I think that they held their own. They did really well. Maybe talk a little bit and tweak a little bit Steelback's performance in this game. A lot of missed spell shields, and I think you should just calm down, talk with the rest of the team, and especially how Huni is performing in this tournament is just sensational for me. And this is how I like my Huni. Like, he does really, really well, and the TP games were on point, I think. If they play the game like this, they shouldn't have a problem in the upcoming matches.
You know, I have a feeling Spawn would like to be on the desk for this one, because we talk about EDG, or he talks about EDG being a better version of Fnatic. We now see what Fnatic playing, you know, at the top of their game can do against SKT. If EDG is that level of execution that you're talking about, Crumbs, we could be in for a pretty sweet game between those two teams when they meet up again.
Yeah, especially looking at the weaknesses of SKT right now. Clearly weaker without the Rek'Sai, and I thought Marin was a little bit unflexible in willing to change his item build. Still going with the early death cap. You got to recognize you need to be a bigger frontline threat with the Hourglass early. He didn't have it until like the last team fight in that game. You need to be able to recognize that you have to adapt your build on the fly. And every Rumble game we've seen, he goes for the death cap. And I'm a little worried for Bengi if he's not getting the Rek'Sai. And I think this ban from Fnatic really opened up the entire of the teams that will play SKT to just permaban it.
Yeah, and I'm really happy actually to see SKT struggle, because they seemed so unbeatable. And this time they were like actually down in CS, down in kills, and were really on the back. And I think that Fnatic could have actually won this game if they didn't get caught out at some points. And
yeah, they did. They definitely had a good chance to win this game, especially with what they had drafted and the way they played the early game. And you touched on Marin. Marin, that was his worst early game that we've seen this entire tournament. This is the first time we've seen him actually have pressure on him, because Huni was affecting other lanes. Huni TP'd like a good 2 seconds before he did, which is not what you see from Marin all the time. Marin's usually the one with the pressure who's like, I'm going to force your TP first to answer me. But Huni was actually playing that game first, and that's really good to see, because this tournament, we talked a lot about top laners, talked a lot about mid laners. Top laners, I think, are actually one of the bigger things, because the skill disparity between mid lane is not becoming something where like, oh, that guy got solo killed in lane. Top laners are having a little bit more solo kills. Top laners are having more influence on the map when TP's up or down or it's been pressured out. So I think top lane and the style that we're seeing from these top laners is something that we really had to focus on moving forward in this tournament.
Well, so then in regards to top laners across the entire tournament, let's take a moment to dissect them individually, right? So we're looking at Marin, we're looking at Koro, we're looking at Huni. Where do you guys see these matching up? If you had to make a pick, who are you throwing your money on?
Okay. As a representative from Spawn, he would probably say Core is the best top lane. But I actually,
he's not on the desk.
He's not on the desk, but I have to speak for him. I feel like Huni is actually doing fantastic in this entire tournament. Every every play that Fnatic sets up is actually Huni TPing behind, putting some kind of pressure, ganking mid lane. This guy is all over the map, putting pressure everywhere. It's just incredible to see how well he performs.
So is that a Koro or a Huni?
That is a definite...
You can't do both.
Just Spawn said Koro.
Yes, Spawn said Koro.
CP saying Huni.
Definitely Huni.
Perfect.
I'm going to go with Koro just because I think that we have yet to see him really be exploited. And, I mean, with the exception of the game that they had against SKT, where I think that the entirety of the team just was dismantled.
I think that was literally just Def picking Tristana, in my opinion.
Well, eventually they all collapsed. But I think that Koro has less visible weaknesses. Like, it happens in the LCK a lot. Marin gets put behind early. Like, he does die a lot, and he seems to be reckless in terms of his positioning during the laning phase. If he gets going, yeah, he's fine to carry. But if you put pressure on him at the right times, he does tend to give quite a bit of gold.
So that's Huni.
Is that another Huni? Zyrene, thoughts on Marin specifically, because that rumble that he keeps getting is really scary.
I think his rumble is extremely potent, and it plays into the team fight style, and then they're just like, all right, we're just going to brawl you, we're going to play around mid-game power spikes, which I think is a big strength of SKT, is when you get cheap power spikes, they push them to get an even larger advantage, and then they snowball from there. But if I had to pick a top laner, it's Koro.
All right, well, we've just spoken over a lot, but in regards to Reignover's attempted Sejuani Q over a wall in that match, Fnatic would have needed to pause the game and ask referees to confirm the bug in order to get a remake. Since they did not, the result stands. Referees are still investigating the issue. All teams are aware of the remake policy and how to respond in the case of a potential bug. Now, with 4 games on the books, let's take a look back at some of today's action so far. After EDG got the better of a few trades in Game 1 versus Fnatic, there was absolutely no stopping them. This was that clash of the same play style that we talked about at the beginning of the day.
I think that EDG actually played this really, really convincing, baiting out Fnatic and always coming back at this point. And this is every time how we see Fnatic lose, when they get this airtime. Don't really know if they should engage or not, and then they just get slapped around and beaten.
This is the heartbreaking play, too, where they don't go after Koro. He goes in the bush. Where'd he go? Oh, yeah. Now let's go after Pawn, who only has 1 spell rotation really left in his pool. Yeah. And then,
this was one of those Rek'Sai Warrior games where he attempted to make the carry with it, wasn't able to do so. Maybe would have burned him to death. Don't need to see him to burn him to death, right?
0% win rate with Warrior.
Exactly. Our next one, AHQ, displayed their dominance earlier today, locking in their spot in tomorrow's semifinals against TSM.
I like right here how Bjergsen waits for the fish to actually jump him up, because if he took the lantern first, he would have clumped up his entire...
Would have been even worse, but it still didn't end well.
But look at how far away Dyrus has to TP into this fight, just off on the right side.
And he's like, where's the rest of my team?
He's just going for a scroll.
There's a fight somewhere.
He's a horse. He needs to run.
They were already pretty far behind at this point.
And they follow Lust Boy into the Dragon Pit. They pick up the Dragon on the back end of that. And of course, in Game 3, EDG also locked in their spot in tomorrow's playoffs, looking on top of their game finally.
Yeah, I think that the only big mistake they did in this game was the overchase and double doge with 4 versus 1.
That's always a mistake.
Yeah, this is always a mistake.
That's that combination at the bottom lane right there.
Just don't do that. But overall, they just played it really, really confident, and I think nobody's surprised that they came out ahead.
This fight just really
he almost gets it. Almost.
Oh! How strong the
with a blue card.
Right here, just barely makes it out.
Tribute to Reginald there.
Oh, shots fired. Who knows? Hey, you don't know, man. Maybe we'll see Reginald in the final game of the day.
Oh,
something could happen.
They have him as a sub?
He is the sub. You never know. All right, well, with only 3 games left in the group stage and 1 playoff spot still on the line, let's take a look at the standings. Fnatic can still lock in that last playoff spot with a win later today versus Besiktas Esports. Otherwise, we could be looking at a 3-way tie between Fnatic, TSM, and Besiktas if EDG beats TSM in today's next match. That means we would have to have 2 additional matches at the end of the day. Coming up in just a few minutes is that big test for the hometown favorites as Bjergsen and Team Solo Mid take on Pawn and Edward Gaming. Stay with us.
Just focus on communicate, it'll be fine. Just playing something like Scream, actually, you know? It's proven.
Absolute zero goes off. Yellowstar gets the kill anyway. Wolf in a little bit of trouble. But here comes Faker. Here comes Mara. Reignover coming in.
Lucian.
Lucian. Here. Okay.
Lucian.
SK Telecom caught yet again. Wild Growth, it keeps Bang alive though. Marin comes in with the kill onto Yellowstar, and Fnatic in a lot of trouble now. Getting in position for that old Faker. Spikes away.
He's stolen!
There it is. Whoa! Right over steals the Baron. Femovin.
Bang's going in!
Oh, Femovin near Penta. That's a pentakill, I believe.
Yes, it is!
For Bang. SKT takes the game. They're 4-0. GG. And welcome back, guys, to the caster booth here at the Donald L. Tucker Civic Center at Florida State University, where the North American LCS team Solo Mid are about to square off against the #1 team in the LPL, Edward Gaming. Man, this match is going to be intense.
It will, and I think a lot of it, just like this tournament, really does focus on Dyrus' performance here. Dyrus actually was the #1 player in terms of giving up first blood in the entire NALCS spring split at 35%. and he's up at 75% here at MSI. And a lot of people will be quick to blame Dyrus for this, but it really is a systemic failure from TSM. Santorin's jungle pathing really hasn't helped him out very much, and even though he's had some questionable pressure at times, it's something that they really need to solve, because top lane has proved so critical at this tournament, and the snowballs coming in off of the top lane on enemy teams are hugely problematic.
It's something that wasn't punished in the North American LCS. They were always able to get away with Dyrus dying early on in the games. With the teams at the midseason Invitational, that's just simply not the case. EDG will punish it too if it happens again in this game. EDG is the most killy team at MSI right here. Actually, 3/4 of a kill per minute, 94 total kills in 4 games, which is currently the highest at the midseason Invitational. That is an insane pace of killing the enemy team. And if TSM, specifically Dyrus, continue to put themselves in situations where they can be punished, Edward Gaming, more so than anyone else, will do that.
That's right. And before we get into picks and bans, guys, let's take a look at the starters. On the blue side this game, it is Team Solo Mid. Of course, you know them well. Dyrus up in the top lane, Santorin in the jungle, Bjergsen at mid, Wild Turtle at AD carry, and down to support, my favorite position, it's Lustboy, and of course, their coach, Loco Doco.
TSM chance still coming through. They're not technically out of MSI yet.
Not yet.
Setting up on the red side is the LPL's Edward Gaming. We got Koro, who is carrying EDG in some of his games from the top lane. Clearlove in the jungle, Pawn in mid lane. Deft nearly picked up a penta kill in their last match. Mako on support, and their longtime coach, of course, during picks and bans will be Aaron.
That's right, and man, I mean, TSM, these fans just don't give up, and they shouldn't. This is a team that just hasn't performed up to what we've seen them perform as in the NALCS. We know they've got it in them.
Yeah, they absolutely do. It's been one of the great puzzles of this tournament is the normally very clean TSM just hasn't showed up, and it seems like everything isn't going their way. Lustboy yesterday had the lowest wards placed of any support, and in fact he's getting outwarded by several, not even just one, but several junglers at this tournament so far.
Yeah, and you have to wonder whether or not TSM feels defeated right now, because they still just have that one win at the entire event over Besiktas, and this game is against a team that has looked dominated against everyone except for SKT. But we have to keep in mind, as far as bracket stage implications go, if TSM is able to win this game against EDG, and then Fnatic loses the game to Besiktas, that's what would have to happen for TSM to move on. It can happen. But until that happens, there is no reason for TSM to not give this their all and treat this as if they were still locked in for the bracket stage, a must-win.
It's pretty insane, but it is time, guys, to get into picks and bans for TSM versus EDG. Looks like Gnar and Maokai the first couple bans.
So taking out that Gnar right away, it has been a strategy that we've been thinking might work against EDG. Take away the Gnar, take away the Sejuani, because typically EDG hasn't been quite as strong without a lot of hard engage and crowd control.
Okay, Hecarim, the second ban for TSM. Looks like we won't see Dyrus.
It's about time. His Hecarim has been very underwhelming, a flashless champion. But you can see once again, this is heavily targeted as top lane bans once again.
This was disastrous against Fnatic when they attempted this strategy. We can probably assume that Sion's going to be last, so is TSM going to first pick Rumble? Because that's where Koro's going to go on the first round of the draft on the red side.
You would think so. Last ban for TSM should tell us quite a bit.
Yeah, there's also the fact that in TSM's 3 defeats, Urgot has been picked by the opponent.
Rumble.
Every single one of them. TSM ends up banning the Rumble themselves, which would line up a Sion ban, but this is a trade of things. Would TSM just go all out, pick Urgot, and then throw Dyrus to the wolves?
Well, it wouldn't be the first time, would it?
Not quite.
All right, let's see what this last ban is going to be. Long time. Are they going to give the Sion over to Team Solo Mid? Last ban will be Zed.
Zed, okay.
Surprisingly.
Huh. Well, what do you know? And the Shyvana possibly for TSM, a champion that Dyrus, who knows, maybe could see some success on. Smite Shyvana, we've seen it work very, very well in other regions. But is it first pick worthy? Do you give up too much? I would love this. I would love the first pick Bard, but we're not going to see it. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, guys.
There are so many things that are first pick worthy. Urgot is the most first pick worthy. It's something that has been first picked against TSM twice so far. However, this does leave up plenty of things for EDG since there were such heavily focused top lane bans.
Kalista still available as well too. Maybe a Lissandra? You think that's actually got a chance of getting locked in, Monty?
We haven't seen the Lissandra very much post Cinderhulk just because her burst really isn't that effective in the late game. Yeah, she can make some kills, but it just hasn't been that much of a priority. There's the Kalista and the Rek'Sai. So apparently they're comfortable. Shyvana and Sion, pretty common top lane picks that are still up. Core will probably be comfortable playing either.
You know, so this does leave a Sejuani or a, you know, or a Grungle in the jungle open for Santorin, but it hasn't really been about the champions for him. It's more about, you know, what he's done, or rather what he's not done. He's spent a lot of time just kind of farming and not really being in lane. Do you think maybe a Nidalee pick might get him back on track?
Well, this would certainly force him to be more aggressive.
It would.
And it's a champion he has had some success on in the past.
Yeah, Santorin needs something to create more aggression. I just want to highlight the Kalista play from Deft could end up being one of the most surprising things here at MSI as far as EDG's chances of winning. Him not having Kalista in his champion pool during the LPL playoffs was a pretty big hindrance to them, and he's had one successful Kalista performance, going to be looking for 2 in a row.
Oh, maybe we'll get to see that Sion picked up for Dyrus. Meanwhile, Corki being hovered over. And an NA, that could be mid or AD carry, I suppose. And there it is, locked in. Dyrus gets the Sion.
This is quite standard for TSM, and I'm glad that they're going back to the things that they won the NALCS with.
Yes.
There were 2 games in the finals against Cloud9 when Wild Turtle played Corki in the bottom lane. Urgot in the mid lane is something Bjergsen can dominate the lane with, and Sion is very hard to kill, which is great for them in the top lane.
One thing we forgot to mention is LeBlanc is still up and available.
Oh, that's a good point.
In the mid lane for Pawn. It has been one of his most terrifying champions. Interestingly, we also haven't seen the Kassadin come out yet from Pawn, which was one of his big picks throughout the LPL playoffs and one of his most threatening champions. EDG is on the red side this game. They have that last pick, and they'll probably be saving that, flashing over the LeBlanc to remind Bjergsen. And there's the Talon. Wants to use his fancy new skin, maybe. That would be not on the tournament realm yet, but
window locked in. All right, so Core will be able to take that window up to the top lane. Meanwhile, perhaps the Sejuani for Santorin. That wouldn't be too shocking, would it?
Would not be too shocking at all. They're going for an overall control comp right there. Basically just trying to mimic the things that they played well in the playoffs. To talk about the Mundo pick a little bit from Edward Gaming, if they're able to snowball that lane a little bit, he stands a high chance of becoming highly unkillable. Corki, not a great tank buster. Urgot,
very true.
If he falls behind that curve of Mundo tankiness, they're going to be in a lot of trouble.
Well, one final pick.
He has to pick this mid laner blind, which is really tricky. Go for the LeBlanc. Just do it.
No, he's got the Urgot, man.
Oh, he already has Urgot. What am I thinking?
Oh, that's true,
They have to pick their support. They're going Thresh.
Yeah.
It's gone. What am I saying?
I don't know, man. It's okay. Let's just start making. I think we're going to see Anivia. No. Yes! Lustboy will be playing Bard. Are you kidding me? I'm a very happy Doa right now, guys. I love this champion. I've loved him from the very moment he came out.
Yeah, and honestly,
wow.
That's all it takes. It's all it takes to grab the support back.
That's all it should ever take.
Bard in particular, I feel like is absolutely worthy of being played at this event. It's just the team coordination and individual practice, both of those in conjunction with each other, are required, and teams just haven't had enough time with him yet to play him at the highest level.
He's one of those champions that's going to take a long time for teams to actually adopt, because playing him in solo queue, it gives you some experience, but he's a champion that you really have to ramp up in scrims. And there is possible Azir for Pawn coming in. This is not a champion that he actually played at all in the LPL playoffs, but has become a bit of a power pick at MSI.
It really feels like coming into MSI, all the mid laners just tried to add Cassiopeia and Azir to their pool because they knew they would be incredibly important here.
It's not a bad idea. That Azir does get locked in for Pawn. I'm just excited, man. Bard, finally. And TSM putting it all on the line here. Dyrus getting a champion that he's done very well on. That mid Urgot for Bjergsen. I'd say going into this one, compositionally, things looking pretty solid for TSM.
Yeah, I have no idea how this Bard's going to play out. I have no idea how experienced TSM is on it.
Yeah.
It's certainly a bit of a wild card, but that said, EDG is probably the team that's most used to playing against Bard.
That's a good point, actually, yeah.
Yeah, near the end of the LPL regular season, there were a lot of meaningless games because the standings were mostly set, and there was a lot of Bard play.
Especially from LGD, yeah. So, a bit interesting.
Huh. Very cool either way. So we are moments away from TSM versus EDG. The fans getting pumped. This is going to be an amazing game, guys. The coaches shaking hands. And the game is loading.
I want to talk about Bard.
Me too. Let's just talk about Bard all day. Oh, but before we do that, remember, at LOL Esports, guys, send your tweets, #TSM, #EDG. Let us know who you think is going to take this one. I think I've got a feeling I know which way the crowd is leaning.
Really? Which way?
I think probably towards TSM, if I had to put some money on it. But who wouldn't pick the team that's using Bard?
Speaking of which, Bard.
When
he was released.
Here we go. Welcome to Summoner's Rift, guys. TSM versus EDG. TSM putting it all on the line with the Bard. So, Jet, you wanted to talk about Bard.
Cloth armor.
When Bard was released.
Oh, yeah.
It almost seemed like he was made for competitive play and specifically lane swaps.
Yes.
Having the Meep spawn so frequently, the atrociousness of his laning phase, and the ability of him to assist ganks with the magical journey were all things that just looked like they were perfect for lane swapping. Since then, though, he's had a lot of base stat adjustments, and his pick potential has also been greatly increased. The Q packs a huge punch. If he picks up a lot of Meeps, he's going to be doing really substantial burst damage in ganks. And as TSM has generally found all of their success in the lane swap, that's the game we're most likely going to be seeing here, is Lustboy trying to go around, meeping it up, and getting the right ganks off.
Yeah, starting with the cloth armor, too. Of course, Bard does have the sustain a little bit more, so you have a few more options. But I wonder if there's a more specific, I should say, level 1 planned right here.
I got this one, man. Cloth armor first, you can go into a fast Seeker's arm guard into a first item Zhonya. See? I know this build by heart.
A lot of people early on with Bard were actually starting Coin because he's not really going to be a laner. So they didn't really care about any type of lane presence item, and it was mainly just about roaming around. Here with the cloth armor, it would give him a little bit more combat effectiveness, but the main thing it does is it gives him the gold to actually start with that sight ward. So we'll see what he tries to do with that, because the early game action has been pretty subdued.
Oh, clearly, you know, TSM has a plan coming into this one with a bit of a surprising buy early on for Lustboy. We'll see what they can do to put it into practice.
All right, so this is a pretty common start among Chinese teams, with the jungler actually burning the smite onto the Gromp right there. We see it more in the China region than we see in most other places. Clearlove, of course, does have that sustain as well. Dyrus will be committing wolf suicide.
That doesn't count for first blood, though, so we're safe.
That's true. There we go, just getting that quick level 2 from beyond the grave.
Here we go, TP right into the bottom lane, and onto Kalista. However, Rek'Sai is going to be moving down to the bottom side of the map. Koro did start up in top, so he's going to be recalling immediately.
Yeah.
And only 3 people for a possible dive or harassment. Not probably going to be enough, and there's the TP into top.
Well, the green ward that Lustboy had purchased has been placed on the red buff of Edward Gaming, so they will know at this point Love is just going for the own red buff.
Hits his first Q, that's got to be a good sign, right? Oh, a lot of damage on the pawn. Bjergsen owning up in the mid lane already. Look at that.
I mean, Bard's land his first Q in lane, they basically won.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's all the victory you need. Get the snare, get the win.
So will they go for a gank onto Bjergsen right here from the Raptor pit?
Maybe.
Put a little pressure on, but Bjergsen playing it safe, playing the top side right now.
And Clearlove doesn't have a lot of health. He can get some back from his passive after he burrows, but doesn't look like they're going to try that gank. Meanwhile, Dyrus farming under turret here. Do you think they're going to try to dive the Scion?
Both top laners left on an island. Both Mundo and Scion are in danger of a gank. It's all about who gets the aggro first and how they execute.
On to Clearlove, Mako taking it right now. Dyrus trying to get that stun. Dyrus in a lot of trouble, and there is a Ren for the first blood. Def taking it. Dyrus just getting a bit of farm before he goes back to the fountain, but yet another first blood.
That's 4 out of TSM's 5 group stage games now.
Yep.
But there was no protection for him on that side, especially when TSM placed the ward in Clearlove's red buff. They knew exactly the jungle pass they were doing. They knew exactly what was at stake. And Dyrus either has to abandon the farm at the turret or risk getting dove. And the dive was well executed by EDG. Of course it was. They're a great team. Dyrus is going to die.
Wow, Lustboy really putting the hurt on the Coral here. That's what you do, man. This is Bloodthirsty Sport. Just stay in auto. Look at that. Oh, it's 1v1 him, yeah. Well, maybe not. Maybe not now. No, stop 1v1ing. They're okay. All right, we're okay.
Yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, they're now able to deny Coral, but Bart took so much damage here, and Coral's already level 4 with Smite up, so if he actually wants to, he can just go jungle right here. That's the benefit of taking Smite, if you're not going to be punished with ganks.
Bjergsen knocked up, taking a lot of damage here, waiting to use those summoners. Didn't need to use either one, so EDG making an attempt there, but Bjergsen in a safe spot. Oh, taking a little bit of damage on the way out, though.
And one thing that I haven't really seen is the Smite top Mundo. It's actually not very common among our Smite top laners. Yeah. I thought that somebody might play it at some point, but to date I haven't seen it.
The one place it was very popular of all places, the NA Challenger scene, Seraph played a lot of it and took over a bunch of games.
Oh, Dyrus in a little bit of trouble. Dodges clear love. Mako coming in though from behind. Will they try to dive this again? The minion wave, I think, is going to say yes. Dyrus already down at half health, still just level 4. And there he goes yet again. Kill number 2 this time, going over to clear love.
EDG is completely right to be doing this.
Yeah. Santorin is never on the same side of the map as Dyrus in this tournament.
Especially, you can either support him with Bard, with health packs and journeys to get out, or have that. You have to make at least some kind of counterplay, because Dyrus does not have Smite. He can't jungle on his own. So someone on the team does have to go and help Dyrus. That is now his second death under the turret.
And really, Lustboy hasn't been doing a whole lot in lane. There's not really a lot of reason for Lustboy even to be on the top side of the map at this point in time. Because Santorin hasn't been going for the dives, they haven't been setting him up in response. We should see Bard moving around the map more instead of just standing in topside and getting hit by cleavers.
Well, yeah, that's the whole idea. Is you start to chain those chimes, you can really move around the map fast in that lane swap. Maybe go save Dyrus, you know, maybe make a gank in mid or something like that. They should be doing more with this Bard. And
instead, Death is now level 6.
It's not Dyrus's fault this keeps happening, but what do you expect? A nice death sentence onto Dyrus. That's 3 kills already. Man, TSM really just leaving Dyrus out to dry yet again.
So it's a little bit Dyrus's fault. Well, but it's a systematic problem right here, and EDG is right to exploit it, as every team has done so far at the midseason invitational.
What do you do if you're Dyrus in this situation, though? If you know your team isn't going to come and help, do you still get the farm as you can? Or
specifically when EDG is coming down like that, you have to avoid the lane. You ask your jungler for double jungle, or you just go and try and push another lane with your team. You group up 3 or 4 people in the top side, try and push down Mundo's turret and assist in an enemy dive if you know the enemy is going to be putting 3 people bottom dedicated to kill you.
Well, you notice there just aren't any wards as well, too, to warn him that people are coming in. I mean, you do have information from the other lanes, of course, too, but not really anything in his side of the jungle to give him that little bit of extra info.
Well, it's tough, because where do you put your money at that point, right? Do you use the meager amount of income that you have on wards for yourself?
Yeah, very true.
Yep.
Wow, Deft actually with a pretty quick Runin's Hurricane.
Well, he has gotten 2 kills and an assist in 7 minutes.
Yep, and a dragon and a turret.
Now, he has fallen behind in CS as a result of this. They've been actively pushing the wave. If we look at what's happened in the top side, TSM has been freezing for the most part, trying to play Corki back to his turret, which does make Lustboy's presence up there increasingly unnecessary. But at the same time, they have managed to actually pick up a lot of farm onto the AD carry.
Yep.
And they're trying to hit, the nice thing about Corki in this composition that TSM is running is it kind of gets them over the hump into the late game. First off, you have some nice mid-game siege with the long-range poke from the Urgot and from the Corki, so you might be able to take down some early towers, and it's a little bit of an insurance policy getting in late. But this Mundo with this challenging Smite is going to be pretty terrifying, and Deft already in the top side starting to take more towers.
Oh yeah, Smite Mundo in the late game turns into a total monster. As I've seen when Seraph has been able to play it.
Yeah, and it's also just Cinderhulk combined with the AoE from Mundo is extremely good at split pushing. And there's not a really good answer as to who is going to deal with the split pushing from TSM.
Yeah, at this point, TSM needs to control this and find a way to fight around the next dragon for the most part. Or they can need to send an overwhelming force top lane and push this down. But since it's already a Hurricane Kalista, you're not really pushing against that very easily. The options are very limited right now.
Right, and the nice thing for Deft is he can stand up here and continue to clear waves. Meanwhile, Wild Turtle has to use mana to actually clear those waves effectively. Yeah. So eventually he's just going to run out of mana if nothing else changes, and it'll be pretty hard.
I would say so. And we'd mentioned the CS earlier with Deft falling behind. Well, he's pretty much caught right back up again by rotating into that top lane. So everything fine at the moment, and already a 3K gold lead at 9 minutes.
One lane that has been pretty much completely unfocused this game is the Pawn versus Bjergsen matchup. Bjergsen has been decimating people early in CS.
Oh boy,
and continues to die with ganks.
Here's a little bit of trouble. Position reverser may save him. He's a little bit tankier. So many Sand Soldiers, though, and Bjergsen getting low. Has to burn that flash. Clear love, flashing to chase. Bjergsen with that shield. Looks like he'll just barely manage to escape. Meanwhile, up in the top lane, TSM trying to make a play onto Deft and Mako. Mako pulled in, though. There we go. Oh, nice play onto Lustboy. A lot of trouble. Magical journey to escape. Oh, Deft, he's taking a magical journey too, and it's going to be a journey to the death for Lustboy. Maybe. Oh, makes it out. He uses the Bard ult to stop Deft just long enough. Bjergsen in trouble in the mid lane, and he will finally go down as Pawn grabs that kill.
A flurry of events. Santorin's ultimate flew wide in that engagement as the Lantern and the Fate's Call are just a lot to keep up with.
Yeah.
Lustboy with a miraculous escape, but they still end up losing Bjerg in the mid lane.
A nice decision by Clearlove to go
Here
back.
Here they go.
And assistance. Journey. Deft in a little bit of trouble now. Lustboy still low, and Deft may try to claim a kill. He'll get an easy one. Oh, that was painful. Oh, wow.
How many can he get?
Hit with that death sentence. There's the double, and he's not done yet. Teleport coming in for TSM. Dyrus trying to turn that one around. Coral there as well, too. Deft getting low. Dyrus gets the shutdown. Turns back onto Coral now. Mako trying to help out, but Dyrus will finally go down. Not quite going to catch up to Coral for that. Well, that was interesting.
It's mostly a magical journey into the afterlife.
I know, it's not quite the magical journey, really, is it? It's kind of a deadly journey.
The most unfortunate thing about all that is now, the most unfortunate thing is Dyrus reset his bounty. It was actually fairly meaningless for EDG to continually kill him until he gets a kill after that teleport, and immediately Coral picks up a fat 300 gold there, and that'll only extend EDG's lead higher and higher.
Very true. Oh, Pawn coming in onto Bjergsen. Bjergsen a little bit of trouble. Lustboy comes in to try to save him. Looks like Bjergsen might get a dodges that death sentence, and EDG going to need to back up just a bit.
EDG's tried that same gank a couple times now. It's the second time, and each time Bjergsen gets over the wall with the position reverser, so not really sure that's going to work as long as Bjergsen has that ultimate available to him.
Bjergsen is holding on as best as he can right now. I was going to say before all the ganks happened that this was actually the first time someone has out-CS'd Bjergsen at 10 minutes, and that was majorly without jungle assistance. I do have to credit Pawn Zazir pretty heavily here, a pick we haven't seen him pull out in competitive play. Doing quite well against Urgot, who is a tremendous lane bully early on, and this game is very quickly getting out of control.
Yeah, certainly starts to look that way. EDG coming in to claim their second dragon. Nothing TSM can really do about it. Lustboy getting closer, but no plays really to be made. TSM trying to put a little bit of pressure onto the mid lane. That is about it. Big gold lead for EDG right now. And for TSM to come back, they're going to need to have some pretty sick team fights. And Deft, chasing down Wild Turtle. Where's that Valkyrie cooldown? Wild Turtle taking a lot of damage. Will the Rend finish him off? There's the flash. Deft waiting for the whole Rend. So close. Meanwhile, Coral takes down that turret up in top lane. And it looks like they may lose one in bot as well, too. Deft trying to get closer to Lustboy. Thrown in with that Fate's Call. There's a nice play. Lustboy grabbing the death sentence. He's in the box now. Tempered Fate's going to save him for just a moment. Santorin comes in. Lustboy magical journeys right into Clearlove. Oh no, goodbye Bard. He's getting a little bit low. Meanwhile, Deft dies to the turret and a little bit of help from Wild Turtle. Meanwhile, Mako getting taken out as well. Clearlove managed to get the kill on Lustboy, but that may have been a little bit too far from EDG.
I think EDG may be going for a few style points right here, because diving between two turrets at 13 minutes into this game is not the most measured play that we've seen right here.
Everybody just wants to get closer to Bard, you know? It's so awesome.
It's about sending a message sometimes. We talked, EDG, even with the SKT game where they were defeated, was averaging 0.76 kills per minute. They're trying to keep up this pace right here, and just make a statement to the world that they are a very good team.
A very killy team.
A very killy team.
Yeah.
Well,
that was a phrase.
They are a very killy team.
Very killy indeed, I agree.
A little too killy right here, though.
Yep, Lustboy.
Launching himself into the inhibitor turret. And credit to Lustboy here, the delay on both of them just long enough to magical jury himself out of there, and then also distracting Rek'Sai long enough to make it so Wild Turtle and Santorin don't die right here. Deft jumping back into the turret. Poor Kalista play, I would have to say.
Yeah, that's not maybe the best idea.
You do have a chance to maybe dodge some of those rockets jumping side to side instead.
No, man, you got to go right back into the turret for the style points. Hey, what's Kalista's favorite restaurant? IHOP.
Oh, God.
Sorry. I'm so sorry. I haven't been booed by thousands of people once in a while, so I had to do that. Thank you.
If there was a time to say that joke, that was the right time.
Looking for that sponsorship. Lustboy takes the magical journey back through the bot lane. I can't say that enough. Dyrus flayed under turret. He's filled with spears. Ouch. And Deft putting a ton of pressure onto this turret. Oh, here comes Santorin. But not able to quite do anything at the moment. Lustboy in a little bit of trouble. Wild Turtle, there's a Tempered Fate. Again, Coral's like, thanks, man, I need to catch up. Oh, Clear Love gets the kill there, and Wild Turtle backing off with that Valkyrie. Yeah, this Bard pick, I hate to say it, may not be working out too well. Oh, Clear Love all over Wild Turtle. Easy kill there, but here comes Bjergsen for a bit of revenge. Will he get it, though? I don't think so. There's a kill for Pawn. And this one is turning into a bit of a rout.
Yeah, it certainly is. And what we saw on the top side with Santorin didn't quite have his ult off cooldown yet, so Deft wasn't punished for being a little bit too far forward there.
7,000 gold already.
Man.
15 minutes into the game.
Well,
EDG actually had it was a 16,000 gold at the 20-minute mark against Besiktas. They have been crushing people in the group stage outside of that SK Telecom game. Pawn is incredibly strong on Azir right now. Azir as well, an amazing turret pusher. He can use his Sand Soldier directly on the turret to chunk a bunch of health out of it, as you saw him do twice there.
That was a lot.
He takes that whole turret down by himself.
And that's a 4-0 turret lead now. Meanwhile, some fighting up in that top lane. Santorin uses his ult to try to escape, actually. Dyrus still tangling with Deft for now. Mako coming in. There's a teleport for Coral as well. Lustboy takes the magical journey through. They could have chased. Thought maybe it was a trap. It kind of was. As Dyrus loading up the sun. Coral, magical journeys right into it, but no follow-up for TSM. Yeah. Magical Journey just makes games like 10 times more entertaining.
Yeah, you have to be careful, though, because Bard will line up that Q on the other side and just stun you straight into the wall. So
yeah,
it's actually one of the few times we've seen some reserve from EDG.
Yeah.
Not just all dogpiling through the magical journey.
Why not?
To be fair, Coral still took it knowing full well what was on the other side.
He did.
He just knew he was strong enough to not get punished by it at the moment.
It was a good setup. You know, Dyrus loading up that max Q as well, too. They stunned him, but hard to finish off the Mundo once you've got him in position.
Yeah, this Mundo getting pretty darn scary, too.
Yeah, at this point, we need to start looking at the rest of MSI in the games that we have coming up, too, because at this point, TSM has one win against Besiktas. In order for them to make it out of group stage, they would need to win this game and then have Fnatic lose to Besiktas. But EDG, I'm going to say they're going to win this game.
I think that's a pretty safe bet there, Jet.
I could say it. I think EDG is going to win this game. Bjergsen in a little bit of trouble here, thus furthering that hypothesis, perhaps.
He'll fall as well. So it actually does make the next game Fnatic has against Besiktas pretty important as well, because in a world where Besiktas beats Fnatic, that puts 3 teams on 1 win. And we would actually still have a 3-way tie.
The best of the worst for MSI.
It's still a possibility that we're going to have coming up here. And EDG,
it's possible.
They're going to try and end this game as quickly as possible.
Yep, going in onto this inhibitor turret in the mid lane, doing a lot of damage to it. Does TSM have any sort of recourse? Santorin has that ult. Oh, here comes Dyrus right through the middle. Doesn't hit anybody. And now TSM, they can't follow up because there's nothing to follow up on. Pawn coming in for a bit more damage. They're going to take out Ghost Dyrus. Tempered Fate freezes people up for just a moment, but again, no damage really. Coral getting a bit low. Oh, the Wild Turtle grab by the Death Sentence, taken down by Clear Love. Pawn comes in. Emperor's Divide pushes Bjergsen back out, another kill for Clear Love. What a hero, and a flash from Deft to take down Lustboy. And it looks like EDG is ready to end this one as quick as they possibly can.
They took so much damage from the inhibitor turret that time, but not a single one of them ended up falling. They're just going to run back for Dragon 3.
Well, Tempered Fate, not doing the best things in combination with the Silent Ultimate. He kind of moved right through everybody straight into the Azir turret during that siege. But man, Pon's Azir mechanics are incredibly smooth to travel to those Sand Soldiers and then knock people back with the Emperor's Divide. He really has those combos down nicely.
And we actually had some internal questions about Pon's champion pool coming into MSI, because we were looking at the champions he was playing against LGD in the LPL finals, and they were all very assassin-based picks, very low wave clear, and not really playing into the control mage style that we saw out of SKT in the LCK finals, the Azir and the Cassiopeia. And we're also thinking, like, how hard would it be for Pon to go back to these picks? Because back in the day, he was an Orianna player, very good one at that, and he should be able to pick up those control mages. Running straight through the Zhonya's man right there to his demise.
Yep.
Through one turret into another. And then just EDG are so far ahead at this point. You can watch everyone taking their turn at dealing with that turret laser over and over again. No one actually falling down.
Oh, EDG takes an easy Baron, and now they'll move back into TSM's jungle.
Koro has so much money right now. He hasn't been back to shop in a really, really long time.
He thinks this is ARAM, man, where he has to die to go back and get items, apparently.
2,400 gold currently on Koro.
Maybe time to hit the B button there, Coral.
Well, as long as you can keep sustaining with that Mundo ult.
I guess. I mean, why not? Who needs items when you can lock in Mundo? Another turret going down. EDG continuing to push towards what will probably be the end of this game fairly soon. They've got the Baron buff. They've got all the power. Coral, though. Oh, here comes Dyrus coming in, and he does hit a couple people, but where's the follow-up? Clear Love blocking a lot of stuff. Dyrus gets flayed back in, filled with spears yet again. He is going to go down. That is that Tempered Fate used again by Lustboy. Didn't really get a whole lot done, as it hasn't gotten a whole lot done all game. There goes the inhibitor turret. Whoa, Pawn bending the Sand Soldier to try to get in on Santorin. And look at that, flash test sentence doesn't connect with Wild Turtle. I could watch Pawn play Azir all day, man.
So bending the Sand Soldier like that is really, really difficult. More difficult than an insect move would be on Lee Sin. I've talked to a lot of people who've tried to pull it off. You have to get the timing perfectly, because the way it works is you place your Sand Soldier, you then E towards it, and as you're about to connect, you cue it forward. So you end up bending yourself to whatever direction that is going eventually. If you do not get the timing exact, it doesn't work, and you end up just looking like a fool.
Yeah, well, Pawn's definitely not looking like a fool this game. 2-0-5. Only 3 deaths total on the EDG side of things. As they're an enormous amount of gold up, about 13,000 right now.
And see Deft just going for the QSS as well right afterwards, taking no chances against Bjergsen.
Makes sense.
So also, the time in which EDG wins this game is not without consequence. In the event of a 3-way tie for first, which would happen if AHQ beats SKT later, the way the 3-way tie works is the 2 teams that have the slowest time in their victories play each other. So the team that wins the fastest would actually get the higher in that mini tournament.
Now Santorin lands the ult on a couple members of EDG. Bjergsen still in a lot of trouble here. Lustboy trying to save people. They do take out Bjergsen. Now Santorin in a little bit of trouble. Another kill for Clearlove. Clearlove 8-0-7 this game on that Rek'Sai. Crazy stat line for him. As we near the end of this game, Pawn just bending those soldiers for fun, man, just showing off at this point. Mako taking some turret damage, barely escaping with his life here. And Wild Turtle, here comes Dyrus. What can he do? Oh, pushed back by the Emperor's Divide immediately and nearly blown up at the same time. Mako still sticking around, throwing out those death sentences, and Deft hopping his way towards another kill on the inhibitor down in bot lane. All 3 inhibitors are going to be down at this point, and the low health on EDG should be a bit of a concern normally, but these guys just don't seem worried about anything at the moment. Pawn has to Zhonya's though. Yeah, a lot of damage. Dyrus gets the kill there. Now EDG on the run. Tempered Fate, it lets TSM catch up. They're gonna kill Deft as well. Bard making things happen. Clear Love trying to get away. We got one good Bard ult, guys. We got one good one this game. I'm happy. Oh, Santorin comes in. They're going to try to get a kill on the Coral here as well, too. Oh, yeah, right into Lustboy. Lustboy getting bloodthirsty, can't quite finish off Mako. Gonna try to make a play. Wow, magical journey. And Lustboy flashes for the bloodthirsty kill onto Bard. Coral still trying to move out, but here comes Clearlove. Nice double knockup. Wild Turtle, they still haven't killed him. Oh! Are you kidding me? Well, I don't even know. I'm done, guys. Clearlove. Santorin coming in. There we go. Finally gets the kill on Okoro, but gives the double over to Clearlove. At this point, it's just a melee, man. I don't think anyone's trying to end the game now. It's just Fight Club.
Brawl time. It's the small things that count in this game.
You already broke the first rule, Doa.
I talked about Fight Club. I always do that, man. I'm the worst Fight Club member. Clearlove didn't even bother to go back. He just wants to try to 1v1 Bjergsen with a half health, apparently.
TSM's inhibitors are cycling alive and dead right now, so EDG can waltz in pretty much whenever they want here. Clearlove doesn't want to stop.
Bjergsen's like, this may be a trap. No.
Here it comes.
Clearlove getting low. Oh, wow. Deft is like, no, that kill is mine. Oh, goodbye, Lustboy. Pawn taking another one, and now EDG maybe thinking about ending this one. Maybe thinking about just getting more kills, too. I think maybe more kills is the way to go.
Hey, they're keeping up their kills per minute stat. This is more than 0.76 kills per minute. They're going for more than a kill a minute this game.
Another Emperor's Divide knocks Wild Turtle right into Clearlove for kill for Wild Turtle. Thank you there. Dyrus gets pulled in with that death sentence, doesn't land that stun. Meanwhile, Deft, Santorin just trying to take down Pawn. The turrets are getting taken down in EDG, ready to end this one. There goes the Nexus. Now that both Nexus turrets have been taken out, Santorin just hanging out. Mako tangling with him. There's the Flay, and Def wants another kill. Oh, Wild Turtle blew up Pawn. And apparently this game is not going to end yet, I guess. Wild Turtle backing off now as Coral jumps in there. Uh-oh, Corki in trouble, gets taken down, and now the Nexus finally focused. 27 kills in 25 minutes for EDG as they take the game over TSM. It's over.
And the thing about EDG and this style of play is when you individually outclass your opposition role by role, you can continue to play this very grinding style because you can bet on the fact that you'll outplay and get a gold lead and keep on expanding that lead through further outplays and then itemization.
And the thing is, especially in this game, EDG also won the strategic match as well. They were able to isolate Dyrus down in that bottom lane, no support, continually attacking that weakness again and again and again, putting Dyrus out of the game and also snowballing Clearlove ahead. At that point, they could use Deft and Clearlove to just take over the rest of the map. So they had the mechanics, but they also had the strategy this time around.
Yeah, true enough. Well, another win for EDG, and they're in prime position now to move on potentially to the playoffs tomorrow. Another strong showing from them, and another kind of puzzling game from TSM.
There's going to be a ton of questions raised back in North America and within the TSM camps about why this tournament went so poorly. 1-4 right there, 4-1. Both these teams' group stages are now done.
And it wasn't just 1-4 either. It was crushing defeats. So.
Yep, and now, guys, it's time to head over to the analyst desk for a closer look at that match.
Thank you, gentlemen. I mean, Monty's correct. Crushing defeats there for TSM in this tournament did not go well. If we look at this matchup specifically, we did see the Bard come through. There's an element of fun there, but to no avail, right? You would hope that pulling that out as kind of a pocket pick would have been, you know, an answer, something special that puts them over the edge.
Yeah, I mean, they still have a huge flaw in their actual strategic gameplay, which is what we thought was a strength, even in the lane swaps. And I mean, it looked like Dyrus was playing zombie modes Sion by playing mostly in passive form, but it's not his fault. It's a whole collaborative team effort in not understanding where they need to put pressure and at what time.
The other thing I want to look at is the Mundo. We talk about Bard coming in. Mundo is something that we haven't seen very much of in this meta, especially Smite TP.
Yeah, and I like the commitment to the Mundo because what it had was with the Smite TP, with Urgot as well as Corki as your two AD carries, you're never burning that guy down late game. So even if something does go wrong early game, there is no way that Mundo dies in a late game team fight. We've seen him get absolutely massive. He does so much damage as well as a frontline tank. I really like the adaptation that came through from EDG.
I think a problem that occurred in the draft was the fact that when you pick Bard, you don't want to lane with him. He's not the greatest laner. And Corki does not do very well versus Kalista. A skill shot-based AD carry can usually get outplayed by Kalista's passive, you know, hopping around, dodging Phosphorus Bomb, a rocket. So they opted to go for a lane swap, which was a good idea, you know, get rid of this. But Bard wasn't used to roam around. Since Mundo has the smite, as you mentioned, he can jungle faster. He's safer in the lane than the Scion. No mana, could just farm away from the Q. And you saw even at one point, he almost soloed out Lustboy.
Yeah, we saw a lot of comfortability, too, on the side of EDG, even with some of these new picks. The early game played out very well for them. They had the successful tower dives to TSM's failed tower dives. And so, again, that early aggression, if they're able to do this in the bracket stages, there may be no stopping them.
Yeah, and this makes them really scary. That's twice now that they've put out the Rek'Sai Kalista, something they weren't willing to really do in the LPL, and that makes them an even deeper team to try and contend with. And I agree, they're putting a lot of faith in their jungler. If you go Smite TP, you're trusting on Clearlove to get you ahead at some point and to cover up some of the weaknesses of that, because Mundo should be the person susceptible to these dives. He's a guy that even before he took Smite, no escape summon as you tried to dive him.
I think a difficulty also was the summoner decision from Lustboy. By taking the exhaust, you hinder your ability to go for the tower dive. You don't really need an exhaust versus the Kalista versus the Azir. Like, these guys get really, like, they are usually in a safe position, and the Mundo needs an ignite. Urgot didn't even take an ignite. There's no ignites in that game. How are you ever going to deal with this Mundo? So they got outdrafted and outplayed all around.
Yeah, and once again, Bjergsen in the mid lane didn't go that playmaking champion we're looking for. Went with Urgot, and Urgot is extremely strong in the current meta, so props for him for picking that one up well. But I just don't think he's ever going to have the impact he needs to have on the international stage if he doesn't play something like the LeBlanc, the Ahri, that can get around the map and really try and help his team out.
Picks and bans coming into question for TSM have been a question throughout the tournament. EDG, on the other hand, though, we look at, again, that Kalista coming out, and they talked about how playing Kalista is almost just a pick ban strategy for them, saying, ban it against us later, guys.
Yeah, I mean, they did all the right things, honestly. Their routing, specifically from Clearlove, was excellent. The pathing in the jungle, the itemizations, the timings for ganks, how Korra just kind of stuck around in the top lane, just barely within XP range, able to actually farm whenever he wanted with the smite because Clearlove was somewhere else, can take over that jungle. I mean, they really exploited TSM right now.
Spawn, I know you believe Clearlove is the best jungler in the world.
Spirit, come on.
No, I think Spirit is the best jungler in the world. I think Clearlove's the best jungler here.
Gotcha.
At the MSI tournament. I definitely think Spirit, he even showed it against him. He had that crazy Nidalee game. But the thing that Clearlove does better than anyone else is cover for his lane's weaknesses. He's willing to get out of the jungle a lot. I think that that really puts him in the pinnacle of junglers out there. I think that he also has an adaptive playstyle, something Clearlove wasn't able to boast in the past. Did used to try and farm up a little bit to the late game, so I like the way they've developed. In general, I think the Pawns game was the impressive one here because showing the Azir pick really does add like that next layer again, because this is all about now. EDG had clinched. They needed to get in there, and they've done that.
All right, well, we talked a lot about the early game, the playmaking there from EDG and how they got ahead. Let's send it over to the telestrator where Zyrene and Sheepy are going to break it down for us.
All right, thank you guys. I am Zyrene, standing by with Fabi and Sheepy Milan, and we're going to be breaking down a play for you guys from the early game. And like Jad said earlier, there's a lot of questions here back in NA about how TSM has been performing and why has it gone so poorly. And out of the 5 games here, we've seen Dyrus be first-blooded in 4 of those 5 games. And it's not always his fault. A lot of it is lane setup, picking the Bard, not going and actually shoving waves on time. So, Fabian, walk me through the early game here.
I feel like my obligation as coach is sometimes to shed on the light, especially in those lane swap situations. Tower dives are really eminent, and I think we should just jump right into the replay here and just show how it just failed for TSM to prepare the tower dive, or either way defend it. What we see here is at the around 2:30 minutes mark, bot lane, EDG started harassing Dyrus, and he got a lot of minion aggro, and so it's slowly pushing towards him. And they have 2 decisions. Either way, one, they start hard pushing it, they bounce it against the tower and then freeze it, or they prepare the tower dive. And as we see on later, they go for the tower dive. So EDG starting the tower dive here. On the flip side, on the top lane, we have as well a non-frozen lane. And what TSM is doing here, they see the top laner coming in, and they just have the wave in the middle for no reason. And what we see here is happening is Killov going for the red buff, going together. Santorin going for the red buff. Top lane is not pushing in, so they can't go for the tower dive. And this is the time where Lustboy and Santorin either way needs to both TP back, because if one of them TPs back, top lane TP can come bot lane and they have a 4 versus 2. Or what's going to happen, he's just going top lane. Don't do anything. It's 100% ganked now at the bottom side. And Dyrus is like, where's my team? Either way, make the top lane dive happen or defend bot lane. And none of those happens. And we actually can see how Dyrus is doing really well in this situation, forcing 2 flashes and get the farm afterwards. And what we can see also in 2 minutes later, that he's actually 10 CS up and he's 0-2. So if we just roll the clip from here on out, flashing the hook, really, really nice play. Getting a lot of DPS on Meiko, getting a lot of DPS on Clearlove, dying here, getting all the CS afterwards. And what is happening afterwards is really, really important, because they need to recover from this. It will slow push towards the enemy. And if we just run forward and see how Clearlove is actually going with his jungle rotation, what he's doing, he's instantly putting pressure bot lane again, because they don't swap the Thresh into the mid lane. They keep the pressure bot lane. So Rek'Sai is going towards the mid lane, Santorin is going back as well, and they should try to actually get any kind of cover around this area down here. This is really, really important, so that they prevent another tower dive, because if Dyrus dies again, it's going to be really, really bad. So Clearlove ganking mid lane, no wards at all at the bottom side, and Dyrus again, guys, either way make a top lane happen, freeze the lane, or help me at the bottom side, and he gets caught out.
Well, Santorin had wards too, and he goes immediately after checking his Raptors. They're not there for a couple seconds.
And why is he top lane? Why is Lustboy top lane? If he's freezing the lane, and he doesn't need to be there.
It's extremely predictable too,
and
because
really
4 out of the
important
5 games.
And really important, they had wards around those areas. He was totally fine freezing topside, and I think this is just to show why Dyrus is dying so many times. It's not his only effort. It's actually a team effort, and I think that's really important to notice.
Yeah, and Clearlove didn't even do a jungle camp. After the gank, goes back, comes immediately middle to pick on Bjergsen, win that lane a little bit.
Just knowing how to do
bottom.
Yeah, just knowing how to do the jungle rotation effectively and setting EDG for a really successful game.
Yeah, I really think that he's just trying to farm champions all the time and at least get his laners forward instead of getting some farm for himself, and that seems to be the prevalent style here.
Yeah, I think that this is how you should play right now, and this is how we see actually most of the games going forward. Tower dives are really eminent, especially the TP play. You need to do a lot of mind games, but once you've figured out and you actually feel yourself in dire situation, you need your team to do something. Because if you're on an island, you are on an island, and your other team needs to create the second island for the enemies.
All right, thank you so much, Sheepy. We need to step away for a moment, but when we return, the European LCS champions Fnatic take on international wildcard Besiktas with the last spot in the semifinals still on the line. Stay with us.
What team is that? They all say EDG?
Oh, wow!
How many can he get?
Hit with that death sentence. There's the double, and he's not done yet. Teleport coming in for TSM. Dyrus trying to turn that one around. Oh, Def dies to the turret, and a little bit of help from Wild Turtle. Meanwhile, Meiko getting taken out as well. They can't follow up because there's nothing to follow up on. Pawn coming in for a bit more damage. They're going to take out Ghost Dyrus. Nice double knockup. Wild Turtle, they still haven't killed him. Oh! Are you kidding me? 27 kills in 25 minutes for EDG as they take the game over TSM.
Welcome back to MSI 2015, where it's time for our 6th game of the day as Fnatic takes on Besiktas. And this is a really important one here. Let's look at Fnatic first. This is big because TSM still has an opportunity to make it into into the playoffs, as well as Besiktas, if they win this game.
I feel like Fnatic at this point should just be going really confident and comfortable in this match. They had a really great showing against SKT. I think
they had the best showing that anybody had against SKT. They have the best showing.
And I think that going into Besiktas, where you kind of know where it's going towards, I think that they are just on paper the better team, and they should know that and just don't make any troubles and go really healthy into this game.
Yeah, I also think that they're in a fantastic position because their top laner, Huni, is really stepping up, and we've talked about his importance. I've even had to revise my opinion on how good Huni is internationally. I was willing to give him the EU LCS, but he's really stepped up this tournament, been an absolute powerhouse, taking it to Myron, who in my opinion is a very solid top laner, and he's going up against Tholdren, we've already said he's a shot caller. If you can get in this guy's head and shake him up with some aggressive play, you might be able to really throw Besiktas off their game.
Well, and you know, we talk about, or it's been joked about throughout the tournament, Besiktas could be a kaboom. Well, it's not even that. They still have a shot to make it into the semifinals. So how are they going to do that?
I'm still hoping for them to actually come out on top of this one, just because, similar to Kaboom last time, they've got nothing to lose, you know. They didn't come here with many expectations, and I think that this could be the time to just show and really prove the whole world wrong. What I really liked that we talked about before was that even in their games that don't look so convincing, they're always playing to win. That's like a trait that not many teams, even at the top level, have. You don't, like, a lot of times the pressure gets to you and you forget, oh, what are we doing? Like, just kind of turtle out and don't do anything. But they always play to win, and I really like that about them. And even the game against AHQ, where Tholdren got camped on Cassiopeia, he had a huge CS lead on that Cassiopeia. I'm expecting him to hold his own against Huni.
Yeah, and Energy, I think, although he's not a monster of the mid laner, he is a really, really good mid laner. He almost solo killed Faker at one point in the game that they played against SKT. Right? His Diana, if it gets off the ground, it's going to be extremely scary, but we haven't seen that just yet. So if Tholdren is able to get through the laning phase against Huni, and then Energy is able to take off in the mid lane, I think that's how they're going to win this game.
And I think they could maybe even pull a Unicorns of Love and go with a surprise pick. Poppy top lane, TF jungle. I
thought you were going to say pull a UOL and lose.
Well, we won some of those games, but I think this might be a really great possibility. Maybe they have something prepared that we haven't seen yet, and maybe they have just looked at other regions, how they play here, maybe have a really good level 1 strategy, and I think we saw it against SKT. It can come to fruition if you follow it up really correctly.
I think it's going to be a quick game. Whichever side wins is going to win very quick and very early.
Yeah, well, we've talked about the lanes that could potentially go even. We've said that Tholdren might be able to stand up to Huni, who's a great laner. Energy might be able to stand up to Forbidden. I actually think they might have a winning lane matchup here. The CS differential for the AD carries is 71 for Nardius and only 57 for Steelback. This guy is struggling to get over that 1 CS every couple of minutes, 5 CS every couple of minute mark. And I actually think that Dumbledore is a lot to play for that one. We've seen that Yellowstar is extremely aggressive. He flashed in for the Krug steal, and that really was punishable. So if they're able to get a similar situation, get Nardius rolling, he might turn into the surprising carry, because we're talking about a lot of the other lanes, and the AD carry role is very strong.
I think for this game, Besiktas actually has the statistics and the numbers on their side, to be honest. But for Fnatic, they do have a good performance against SKT. You know, that kind of gets you rattled, gets you in a good mood to actually perform. Maybe not the fact that it was a kind of heartbreaking loss, but that's what both teams have going for them.
Well, they had different kind of heartbreaking loss, because you got to remember that in caveating my point about Nardius, he just came off the game with Death, where he was absolutely crushed. So Death really did take it to him. So they're bouncing back off different kinds of losses. Besiktas, that really crushing, like, just 20-minute all-out bloodbath that EDG put on, and then the very close game. And I actually think it's harder to bounce back from the close game.
I think that Besiktas also has like this kind of wild card extra point where you don't know what exactly they are going to pull out. And I also feel that Besiktas, just in this position, has nothing to lose for, and that's really important. Like, this kind of mindset, especially from us, when you are kind of the underdog, that can give you the moral boost, and this can just give you the clarity in the game.
I disagree on the point about the closer game is harder to bounce back from. Because, I mean, I'm just going to pull in some of my experience here. When you're playing against teams that are much better than you, as long as you tell yourself this team is a better team than we were close to, than the team we're going to face. Like, I'll just even go to like ranked fives. When I'm playing against challenger ranked fives and I'm not a challenger player, and then we lose to them, and it's like, well, they're better than any other team that I'm going to face in the actual tournament I'm playing in, right? So you go in with that knowing, and it's a bit of a confidence boost.
Well, I think you detach yourself from such a heartbreaking loss. You're just like, oh, okay, well, we're not at this level.
Well, and that's the thing.
When you play like such a close game, you're like we were almost there, we're almost there. Can we actually do it? It's like, oh, no.
Right, but it is entirely about the mentality of how you take it, and that's the thing. You could go one way with it and say, you know, we should have won that lane. It's the most crushing defeat. You know, what do we do now? Or you could take it, as Irene was saying, this is the best team that we're going to go up against, and we gave them the best run for their money out of any of the teams in this tournament. That says something about our ability to play.
And Fnatic was laughing a lot during the previous games that they were playing. They were having a lot of fun in their earlier game against EDG. Even
Smiles
though they lost
win
that.
games.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do. Don't listen to crumbs, ladies and gentlemen. All right, well, as Besiktas set up, though, with their survival in this tournament on the line, we'll hear what it's like to not only play as the lone representative from the seven regions worldwide, but with the weight of over a century of Turkish athletic tradition on their shoulders as well.
Bundan bir hafta önce Türkiye şampiyonuyduk. Ondan sonra 7 bölgenin de katıldığı uluslararası turnuvada, Wildcard turnuvasında birinci olduk.
Wildcard'ı kazanıp, daha doğrusu 7 bölgenin birincisi olmak gerçekten güzel bir duygu. Hani hem MSI'ye katılıyor olmak hem de bu 7 bölgeyi temsilen orada bulunmak gerçekten güzel bir duygu.
Beşiktaş gibi köklü bir spor kulübünün e-sporda önce olması gerçekten çok büyük bir şey. Bir kere çok köklü bir taraftar grubu var.
Ben çok uzun zamandır sahnede oynuyorum. Yani 2-3 yıldır zaten sahnede oynama tecrübesine alışkın bir oyuncuyum. Gerçekten ilk defa sahnede heyecanlandım. Heyecanlanmamam lazımdı ama heyecanlandım. Yani karşımızda öyle bir taraftar vardı ki sürekli beni heyecanlandırıyordu. 4000 kişinin önünde oynamak ve o 4000 kişinin Beşiktaş'ta olduğunu bilmek, bize desteklemesi gerçekten muhteşem şeylerdi.
The fans are really nice and they're really supportive and just always rooting for us. That's really nice.
So before I got to Turkey, I used to only compete in Czech Republic, and that was like really easy. There was no competition, no nothing. Now I got to Turkey and it's like better players, everything is bigger. We play in arenas and stuff. We can get to Wildcard, we can get to Worlds. And it's like really exciting to be here.
Beşiktaş Kulübü Türkiye'deki en köklü futbol kulüplerinden bir tanesi. 1903 senesinde kuruldu. Sayısızca birçok başarıya imza attı. Hatta bu kulübün çarşı adıyla bilinen bir taraftar grubu da mevcut. Hatta yurt dışında birkaç maçta desibel rekorları kırmışlığı bile var. Hani bu kulübün bir parçası olmak, bu kulüp adına oynamak gerçekten çok güzel bir duygu.
Facebook'a yazdım, hepsine baktım mesela Fanatik'in. Bir tek Fanatik'in çok beğenisi var, 1 milyon üzerinde. Mesela SK Telekom yazdım, 50 bin falan herhalde, daha fazla değil. Beşiktaş 5 milyondan fazla. Ki o da sadece Facebook'ta. Yani şu turnuva Türkiye'de olsa onlar bile korkar bence. Öyle bir taraftar kitlemiz var.
MSI'ye katılan bütün takımlar genelinde beni en çok korkutan destek oyuncusu Last Boy diyebilirim. Koridoru çok iyi kontrol ettiğini düşünüyorum. Açıkçası Last Boy'a karşı oynamak benim için gerçekten büyük bir tecrübe olacak.
Yani benim en çok severek izlediğim, idol aldığım ormancı İnsek. Çünkü İnsek'in ismini bir oyun hareketine verdiler. İnsek diye bir tabir var onun içinde. Bence bu gerçek. İnsek'in Lee'sin tekmesinin tadına böyle bakmak benim için güzel olacağını düşünüyorum.
3 senedir neredeyse bu camianın içindeyim, e-spor camiasının içindeyim. Bu denli heyecanlandığım, bu denli yani gerçekten elimizin ayağımızın kesildiği bir maç oynamamıştım bu Wildcard haricinde. Hani hem maçların heyecanı olsun hem arkamızdaki taraftar desteği olsun. Zaten bunun büyük bir kısmı taraftar desteğine bağlı da hani gerçekten inanılmaz bir duygu ve bunun çoğunluğu Beşiktaş ismi sayesinde olmuş durumda.
That was really intense, watching Thaldren in front of the crowd, them cheering at his cue, you know. You hear stories about how crazy the crowd can be in Turkey from all the people that go back from the league events. And even them were saying how this fan club has broken decibel records in their cheering.
I just absolutely love the enthusiasm, and I get chills when I see Theophilus speak about. I was actually not supposed to get any kind of sweat or whatever, and it was just so nice to see because we were in a similar position, and it's just absolutely overwhelming once you sit instead in front of such a great and